It is well.
No, that one is that's for bye-byes. Well, all right.
Jokes are all good and well.
It's okay. City, it's okay. Let's share mine. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness.
Okay.
Karibuni sana katika mpango wa leo. Why do they call it mpango and it's a kipindi?
Well, the Kipindi has a plan. So they focus on the plan, the Kipindi.
Okay, we'll have a number of conversations today. The IEBC did what we were discussing yesterday.
The IEBC listened to us. They heard us clearly.
Yeah, let's see what that means and the implication of that, if at all, if any. We are still seeing some, there's no other word, nonsense over some certain, individuals who are coming, who are living. I mean, I just don't
who
get
went,
it.
Who are not quite there,
Yeah.
who are asked questions. And before we waited for the response. Then the next thing we knew, they were not there.
They are not there.
5
But
a.m.
nobody has told us
Ouch.
who exactly they are.
What we were told is that there might be several people, because according to the name, it is as common as other common names that we have in this country also, ranging from and ending with.
Yes. We'll have all those conversations. There was a story in the Business Daily yesterday that you highlighted, right? That MPs have discussed, and the Finance Committee led by Gladys Wanga has said, all right, we can look at how we can then allow the CBK to impose some regulations on mobile lenders. And what does that mean? So we've invited the mobile lenders to come and speak to us. Let them tell us, who do they lend to?
And why do they lend?
And why do they lend? And who told them that's a good business? And then what does regulation mean to them? So they'll be joining us at 8 o'clock, plus all the other conversations. We always love you when you join us in these conversations by participating on social media or by calling in. But let's begin with our brother, the Cabinet Secretary, Senator. Why does he call himself Senator? Senator Muthui Kagwe.
Aspirational titles.
So he believes that Senator is bigger than CS.
He believes that one day he will be one, perhaps.
He's been a senator, huh?
Maybe he wants to be one again.
It's appropriate.
Tuendelee. Amesema nini sasa?
Amesema sasa 717 Kenyans, 745 people, new cases of COVID in the country. 30 succumbed to COVID. Not that 30 again died yesterday, but that 30 in terms of accumulation of reports from around the country. From a sample size of 6,209, it puts Kenya's positivity rate at 12%. So, caseload in the country now at 212,573. 2,197,015 tests have been done so far in the country. It's interesting because previously we were seeing fewer and fewer numbers of children being affected with COVID-19. We had also seen that the bulk of the cases were then adults 30 and above. But now we're seeing more and more cases in Kenya specifically of children below the age of 12 being found positive with COVID-19. And earlier we had been told that children are not as susceptible to COVID, but are spreaders, could be spreaders of COVID-19. But now we're seeing that more children are being infected with the virus. Okay, 7-day-old infant was one of those found yesterday with COVID. All right. We still have a number of patients that are admitted in various health facilities. Again, unfortunately, we are dealing almost as though we're, poking about in the dark because we are not able to test as much as we should. We do not have a clear picture of really how many people in the country are actually COVID-19 positive or who may have come in contact with the disease. All right. So we just don't know. But these are numbers that we are getting from the Ministry of Health. It still remains also that many people presenting with symptoms are bringing themselves to hospital and are not able to find, number one, space. Number two, a bed then that would have the oxygen facilities. It is still an issue. And we're still having high numbers. In this case, 700 cases per day is a high number. And we're likely to see higher numbers as we go through the week. All right. So another thing, interestingly enough, is that the vaccines that hope to come into the country this month, we had heard that by the end of July, beginning of August, we would start to see more vaccines coming in. There are some donations that have made their way into the country. But it was interesting also because circular that was sent by the government yesterday is that all public servants, all across cadre, across levels, has become mandatory for everybody to go out and get your vaccination if you are in the public service, because they had seen also there was some apathy, there was some reluctance, there was a low turnout when it then came to those who were getting vaccinated. So, coming from the head of public service, Joseph Kinyo's office, you must go out and get it. And all officers were then to give priority to staff to go out and get their vaccinations done.
I'm looking for my notes. There you do. Lick your finger to turn the pages. We had Dr. Ahwale here in the studio on what day was this? Tuesday, the 13th of July 2021 at 8 a.m. He's the chairman of the COVID Vaccine Deployment Task Force. He told us we are expecting a number of doses of COVID vaccine to come by that time in 2 to 3 weeks. 1.7 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine coming from the US and 270,000 doses of the COVAX coming from, another Pfizer coming from COVAX, and then later we'll get 13 million through the AU initiative, which we have paid for. Now, that is about 1.9 million Pfizer doses that should have been here. We're in the middle of August. Where are they?
They're not here yet.
Okay.
However,
They're coming.
not only are they coming,
They're still on the way.
400 million Johnson & Johnson doses that have been promised through the AU initiative that are on the way.
This way. Okay. Wait. Okay.
They're on the
They're
way.
on their way coming.
They're coming.
They'll be here soon.
Sooner than you think.
So as you're talking about all these things of, vaccinations and all, we are basically talking about, apart from those that just came from the UK the other day,
Nada.
nothing else.
Nope.
But that discussion of
Can we
the vaccine.
Can we extradite someone so that those vaccines come? Somebody who actually now does matter.
The
Deport somebody who matters, then maybe the vaccines will come. We'll change our conversation to vaccine.
the little difference between talking about expectation with a touch of reality just given to it is something that seems to elude those of our people in leadership. What is difficult about saying they're arriving in 2 months' time? Or 3 months' time.
Or even
we
coming
don't-
out and just giving
saying we
explanations
don't
and saying
know
we were expecting them
when.
today.
Right.
Now we have had new information, and this is the reason why they are not coming
Yes.
this week as expected, as earlier announced.
So now
Come up with an update.
we've had that explanation was there in those early days. But this conversation is being overtaken by very many events. Chief of which, if we were to look at what's happening in the country of Israel, forget the 2 jabs, then they're going for a 3rd one.
Nabado.
Oh, no. Bado kabisa.
Let's take a break. 17 after 6. We are live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you are. Say hello, and we'll be saying hello to you and welcome you into the show. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening
Yes,
to
guys, in Nairobi this
Spice
morning. There's a
FM.
chance of rain, we are told. Later highs of 24 and lows of 15. It's partly cloudy in Nyeri at 14. Highs of 22. 23 will be the high in Nakuru, where it's partly cloudy at 14. It's raining in Eldoret at 12. Highs of 21 and lows of 11. Clear skies at 18 in Kisumu. Highs of 25. 27 will be the high in a clear Kakamega at 16. Mostly clear conditions in Mombasa at 22. Light rain in Malindi at 23, going to highs of 28. We'll see highs of 26 in Kampala. It's partly cloudy at 17. Partly cloudy conditions at 20 in Dar es Salaam. Highs of 29. We'll see highs of 17 in a chilly Johannesburg this morning at 5. Clear skies, however. Light rain at 25 in Lagos with highs of 30. 30 will also be the high in a mostly cloudy Kinshasa at 22. Sunny conditions at 29 in Beijing. Highs of 32 going into afternoon and lows of 22. It's raining in Paris at 17 with highs of 25. We're looking at partly cloudy conditions in London at 15, highs of 23 and lows of 14. And it is still Monday night in New York at 24. It's mostly cloudy. Coming into Tuesday, we'll see highs of 26 and lows of 22.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It's 20 minutes after 6.
94.4
How are you doing?
Spice FM.
Wherever you are. Who's
So
where?
everybody is everywhere, it would appear. Jerry Pam Bot. Yeah, Pam is actually a northern Nigerian name from Middle Belt. And he says he's 2 hours ahead in Nigeria. You're not, my friend. You're actually 2 hours behind Nairobi. Wesley Ajega says tuned in from Kapsabet.
But he got the two right.
He got the two right. Which
Saying
word
2
again?
hours ahead of Nigeria.
Oh, of Nigeria. It's true. Nairobi is 2 hours ahead of Nigeria. There, you're right. I take it back. I stand
Okay.
corrected.
Okay.
Anyaga says she's tuning in from Nyamira. Washira Wilfred. Hi, Eric, CT, and Ndu, following dutifully every day in Gishogo. You guys sound and look unusually upbeat today. How do you people normally behave?
Thank the person who has spoken such true words.
Thank you, Washira. I thank you on behalf of CT.
Yes.
Atete.
Ate,
Upbeat.
upbeat, unusually upbeat, sounding
Upbeat.
and
Eric.
looking upbeat.
Wait a moment. Eric, you are not upbeat today?
I am.
Took a minute, but okay.
I am.
Odhiambo Nick says, good morning from Meru Town. And Zairo Nyambori says, good morning from Kisumu, Pacho. What does Pacho mean?
Home.
Home, okay. George Ogola is tuning from Eldoret.
I know that's Dalamin.
Same thing.
Pacho Dala.
No, you can't say Pachodala.
But if you can say yes, yes, you can say home, home.
You know, Pacho is specific to where you come from.
Oh,
Dala is just Gishagi.
It's general.
Yes, Gishagi.
okay.
Okay.
George is going to Eldoret. Okay, no, he's in Eldoret. He's going to another country, on transit to another country. Are you sure? County. But he's worried that he will not get us after Webuye. Can you help us, Eric?
He's crossing over to Uganda.
After Webuye, he says maybe he won't
Which
be able
direction?
to get to Webuye.
From Eldoret towards
He's
Webuye.
going west.
And
Going
that
out
one is
west.
actually Uganda. You're right. Because I was thinking he was traveling from Webuye, because I was thinking that one is heading towards Kitale.
He's in Eldoret. Going
But
that
since
way.
he's Eldoret, is there any reason why I cannot stay in Eldoret?
In order to get us, stay in Eldoret today. There's another solution. You might want to think about that one, George. Phil F.A. Collins is tuned in from Mbakasi. And Naomi Mwanza says, good morning. Jimmy Waihumbo says, good morning. Nakuru is well represented. And David Kiari Subukia is also tuned in. Jambo Wangwana, you always make my day. Molid. He says he's addicted to the show. That's a good addiction. One of the few. Tuning in from Dubai is Amir Mwabege. And Diana Mburu is tuning in from Kitengela this morning. Nixon Otieno, awesome trio. Good morning. Tuned in from South Sea. Bay Wamacha is tuned in as well. And quite a number of other folks tuned in this morning. Controversious Nyandhoison is tuned in from Kisumu Kondele. All right. And the Charity Minor is tuned in as well, as is Jeffrey. And tuned in from Clanton, Alabama. That's where DeAndre is tuned in from this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today.
Welcome. City, what's the upbeat proverb of the day?
Well, the upbeat proverb for the day may be a little wet.
Okay.
Rain does not recognize anyone as a friend. It drenches all equally.
Okay.
What?
Except when it's raining in some parts and not others. In the same place. Have you seen that thing? I've actually witnessed it. Raining in your front yard and not raining in the back.
Huh?
Yeah. Okay, maybe
How
not.
big is your yard?
Don't play, man.
Sheesh.
When someone is speaking,
If you own a 70,000 acre ranch, it's okay.
when someone is speaking metaphorically, we understand. And the point that was being made is a valid one. For
You doubt
instance-
me, City.
No, I don't, because yesterday, for instance, it was drizzling in Hellingham.
Voila.
But in Kenyatta National Hospital, it was raining cats and dogs.
Voila. Exactly. I believe you told me it was raining in your neck of the woods as well. And it was not raining in mine. You see?
That is not front and backyard.
Then
my
that
friend.
rain,
Come
which
on.
was
Okay, front and
raining
backyard of Nairobi.
in KNH, came to Hellingham.
The rain found its way.
Yeah, I think it was on its way. What I was calling a drizzle was the hello, the salams mchana. Then the real greeting arrived.
You see, the moment you pass that outside Kilimani police station, when you're driving down towards Hurlingham, right? It was drizzling. I was in that drizzle. I was not the rain's friend. I was rained on. So yes, I agree with that proverb.
The rain is not a friend of anyone.
It's equal. I
But because you were coming with a proverb today, it did not rain on you.
Oh, it actually did. In fact, I did. It rained on me even more because I do have an umbrella, but the umbrella is in the boot of the vehicle. So in the process of getting the umbrella, I was rained on decently. I even
Okay.
wondered whether I should actually return the umbrella back into the boot. But I figured since I've removed it,
Let's just carry on.
Let me just
Okay.
use it, yes.
Haya, tuangalie magazeti.
Acha tuangalie. Here comes Kenya's most expensive poll. It's like we're, trying for these things. Most expensive budget, most expensive poll. Let's see. They come in threes, we are told, but let's see what the last one will be. As 1 year countdown to the polls began yesterday, the IEBC unveiled campaign finance limits for candidates. Voila, as we spoke about as well, giving a glimpse of the power money will have on choices, with at least 50 billion shillings allowed for campaigns. New rules in numbers. August 9th, 2020, the date for Kenya's general election. 41 billion shillings is the amount the IEBC requires to conduct the election. 4.4 billion shillings, the maximum amount a presidential candidate can spend in campaigns. 17.7 billion, maximum campaign spending by a political party. 123 million, the amount that can be spent in the most expensive county, which is Turkana, and 2 million. Breach of spending rules will attract a fine. Interesting. Don't spend so much, and if you do, we'll charge you. Or a jail term not exceeding 5 years, or both. All right, so this is covered on 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the Standard. And we did hear the IEBC chair out of Mombasa yesterday talking about some of these things and what they essentially would mean. So while the spending for presidential candidates has been capped at 4.4 billion over the campaign season, the political parties they preside over would have been given 17.7 billion to spend across the country, offering a backroom window for cutthroat spending between them. And when candidates violate any of these caps, like we've seen, 2 million shillings is what the fine will be.
You just pause there.
Yes?
2 million shillings for violating which cap?
the cap of 17.7 billion as a party,
Any of
or
the spending.
4.4 billion as a presidential candidate.
Or
You
for
go-
councillor,
or for councillor, whatever.
MCA,
Any of the
whatever.
spending, you go beyond the number, we charge you 2 million.
Yes.
It's equal.
Yeah, but therein lies the problem.
That's it.
You've seen it also?
Of course.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah. Okay. So a nominal fee, you know. The regulations, together with the respective campaign capping for the various political positions, were published yesterday by the IEBC chairman, Wafula Chebukati. He also announced that the commission was seeking just over 40 billion shillings. The IEBC gives notice and publishes the contributions and spending limits, including the total amounts that a candidate of political party may receive and spend during the expenditure period. So, according to the schedules provided in the notice, the expenditures that have been tabulated based on population and landmass, that's what has happened, single source contribution to candidates or parties have also been limited to 20% of the respective schedules. So, outside the presidency, the most expensive seat to campaign for the capping would be the triumvirate seats of governor, senator, and women representatives. All right, so those three are the most expensive. For these seats, candidates will need between 21 million and 123 million on the maximum side to gun for these seats. Above this, they cannot go. So Turkana,
What is their minimum?
there's a minimum, apparently.
Aye.
According to them, it doesn't make sense to spend below 23 million on a campaign. Turkana, with a population of just under 1 million and geographical area estimated at 68,680 square kilometers, will be the most expensive county to campaign in, with each of the three positions of this triumvirate given a maximum of 123 million. Okay? So this minimum you're talking about, Eric, is not that you have to spend at least this. It's saying that the county having been given the least is 23 million. The county having been given the most is 123 million. Okay, it is closely followed by Nairobi County at 117 million, Marsabit at 114 million, and Wajir at 103 million. So the county with the least to spend is at 23 million. So it's not that you're given a minimum, it's just that the county who will spend the least is 23 million.
Basically, what you're saying is that that county, the cap is 23 million.
Yes, exactly.
The maximum that can be spent in
23 million. Yes, in that particular county. The maximum
campaign.
the maximum that will be spent in the most expensive county, in this case being Turkana, is 123 million. So we're looking at a total for political parties at 4.4 billion across the country. All right.
You know, we were having this conversation yesterday, and Mule Musau, our guest, was saying, IEBC has the power of the law and the constitution to actually introduce these regulations. Also, the Election Financing Act of 2013 is still in effect. What was coming up was the regulations on the modalities of this. But IEBC has now gone a step further and just come up with those modalities and said, this is how we go. All this is good on paper. My question is, source of the funds, has it been defined?
No. I waited.
Because this is where the issues come in, the regulations. How do we describe legitimate and illegitimate source of financing? Do we cap the amount of money that one person can contribute? Can we say, for example, that one person can give 4 billion shillings to a presidential candidate and
That's where it gets sticky because the provision has not been made. It would be great if this too was gazetted, but it has not happened. So there's no framework for that. And so that's the thing. When you're looking at credibility, you have no, guidelines for, or talking about where your source is or what your source is. So basically what you've said is that anybody can, bring in funds from wherever.
But what is of interest, that article that you have just referred to, do they give any details as to how it is the IEBC came up with these figures, or they arrived at these figures?
Which one specifically? Are we looking at how much,
this one of the caps?
Of the caps.
Caps, and then how much is spent, and
They were looking at population
and geographical area.
size.
Yeah.
So saying, for example, transport, for you, if we put X amount of shillings per kilometer, and you need to traverse this vast county of Turkana, then you're going to spend X.
And they're using that because Turkana geographically is huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you'll find that the least in terms of geographical size then will probably get, of course, a lesser amount. However, there are some counties that are smaller but with a larger population. So then it varies.
Actually, there is a component that is missed out on that because we're talking of averages. Yes, it may even out that way. But if you are talking about a region that is sufficiently economically empowered, meaning there are many people who have a lot of money, anybody vying for a political seat, they will spend more money than everybody else probably combined.
Yeah.
Simply because the stakes are high and those who are vying have money, so there's money available, so a lot more gets spent.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true, because former Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero recently said that he has a war chest of some 423 million shillings that he's ready to spend to defend this seat in Nairobi.
Nairobi, or I thought he was moving to, was it Homa Bay or what was it?
Yes.
He wanted to defend the seat. Well, this was previously, right? At that time.
In 2017.
2017, where he now said, look, this is the amount of money that I have and I'm ready to defend the seat, which was lost, of course. But, what this is essentially saying is that you can't just come around chest thumping saying you have this amount of money to spend. Well, IEBC is saying, sorry, even if you have, we will not allow you to spend more than this amount.
But I think I haven't asked my question well. You set that cap, but how are you going to determine how much is actually spent?
By saying that you want access to the accounts.
Yes,
so you establish a bank account, have
spend from
signatories, have a structure of who manages this campaign finance, and then you ask for the details of that bank
Yes,
account.
that one, their Kenyan politicians, believe me, they'll follow it to the letter, and they'll not even 1 red cent will.
In fact, nobody will spend even a cup.
Yes. No, they'll all be below. But what they'll actually be spending, in many cases, will be up. Why are they dithering about this law and the
mind-blowing.
limits? Why?
Because they know what it means.
Because they know what it means.
Precisely.
Nobody's going to ask
they're
you where the
playing
money
with us.
came
Let's
from.
take this break. So it's 25 minutes to 7, Kenya's biggest conversation. How are the roads looking like this Tuesday morning? Let's find out, and then we look at more newspaper headlines. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Mama Vera, you look so relaxed. How do you manage to get your children to school in this city? There's too much chaos on the roads, and I'm always late for work after taking Kevin to school. It's a daily logistical nightmare.
Hey, Mama Kevin, have you not heard of Maramoja Transport? They pick my children from home to school and bring them back in the evening. Vera does not have to wake up too early in the morning and after school. She gets home very energetic and has enough time to do her homework. Even her grades have improved.
Thank you, Mama Vera. Hapo umenichanua. This back to school, I will enroll Kevin on Maramoja Transport.
Maramoja Transport is a community-powered mobility platform with 6 years experience serving top corporates in Kenya. Maramoja's school transport solution is ideal for parents and school administrators alike, guaranteeing you peace of mind, accessibility, and safety for your children. Register today by visiting our website on www.school.maramoja.co.ke or email us on maramoja.maramoja.co.ke. Save more, stay safe, and no stress. Get more with Maramoja.
Okay, so we're still seeing some traffic. Actually, it has built up now this morning. Coming off of Muranga Road, a lot of folks are taking that Kipande Road option, going round and then getting into the city. That's an option to use. We've seen some traffic around there. Also coming off Muthui Road, it's looking pretty good right now. That is the option to use because of that closed Museum Hill ramp. There's also the diversion between Kenyatta Avenue and the University Way roundabout. That diversion takes you off-road just a little bit. But then Ken has told us we should try and use alternate routes if you can't stick to that one. Jogger Road heading into the city, spilling onto Landys Road at the city mortuary, at the City Stadium roundabout. Not too much of an issue. Just at the Kamkunji roundabout, though, getting into the city, there is some traffic. Gong Road looking pretty good. Langata Road is where it's already starting to fill up this morning as you're trying to get into the city, but not too crazy at the moment. Take advantage of these not too crazy moments. We'll see what it looks like in about half an hour, but for now, still things at a dull roar. Hopefully they'll stay that way for most of the morning, but we'll see. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch just in case it doesn't. Text as well on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
22 minutes to 7. So all those stories that we're talking about, huku hayo ya kijiri, yes, as it's all happening, there's a woman who is wondering what happened to her husband. 40-year-old Helen Nasu is pictured here at home with two of her children in Mararal, Samburu County. She was married to this gentleman for 20 years. And what happened is at age 40, she was left alone and the dreams that they had together were gone. Married to Mr. John Gakuya, they had many children. They lived a good life. However, last year on the night of the 15th of October, Gakuya complained of severe headaches and was rushed to Samburu County Referral Hospital. He was admitted with what the hospital management said was cerebral malaria. He was put under medication for 8 days in the men's ward. His disappearance from the ward is still a mystery. So far, are we together? October 15th, kichwa nauma, hospital. Admitted, uko na ile malaria kichwa. Put under medication. 8 days in the men's ward. There people can account to this man was here for 8 days. After that, man was not seen. That was October, November, December. January 18th, a stench coming from the far corner of the hospital compound led to the discovery of Gakuya's decomposing body, ending a 3-month search. The patient had reportedly been missing since the 22nd of October last year. The body had gone unnoticed for 3 months, even though it lay about 70 meters from the staff quarters. Not even the hospital management can explain how he got out of the wardrooms, evaded security guards, and got to where his body was found. In fact, hospital management appeared to be shocked and concerned about this gruesome discovery. The hospital later released a statement on the discovery of Gakuya's body after a public uproar when the nation highlighted the story. The report that was handed over to the county's health executive said the hospital did not know his whereabouts, even as his burnt-up body lay about 70 meters from the staff quarters. Officers later revealed that Gakuya might have been trying to escape from the hospital before he was overwhelmed. At the time of his disappearance, the report said Gakuya's condition could not allow him to even scream for help. But the family is hearing none of it, and they are blaming the hospital for negligence. He was sick. He has been diagnosed by doctors with cerebral malaria. He is weak. They say that he may have been wanting to escape. Why would he be wanting to escape?
See.
One. However, let's just say that he wanted to escape and then he leaves. He leaves the ward weak. There's usually a nurse in charge outside every ward, right?
Yes, sister.
He leaves. They don't see. Security don't see. Walks 70 meters. Nobody sees. Falls. Dies. Nobody see. Day 1, day 2, day 3, month 1, month 2, month 3.
Even beyond the sisters
Start
in charge,
smelling.
Even beyond the nurses' station, we've all slept in hospital at least for a couple of days, right? At some point. The nurses' station, you have cerebral malaria in hospital. There is somebody who is taking your vitals at least every 6 hours, coming to give you medication.
Yes.
On day one, when you were going to do this procedure, you found nobody in the bed. Did you not start asking, where is this individual?
Doctor coming round
Doing the rounds in the morning, checking on his or her patients.
has a list.
We are not asking where this gentleman
Where is John Gakuya?
Okay, let's say you missed it in the morning. Afternoon round for evening. Okay, let's say day one passed and we're still a little bit confused about what could be. You were on a different shift. You've come back day two. You're not asking where this gentleman is. You didn't discharge him. There's medicine that has been prescribed for him. What? I don't understand.
One of the things that is documented from research and findings with regards to cerebral malaria
Hallucination.
anxiety, irrational behavior, sometimes even violence.
Which the hospital staff should know.
It's it's a hospital. And that is why some patients are bound to the bed, because it is known that even as they're getting medicated, they will be agitated.
Right.
And so that walking out may be part of the hallucination. And even if it's not cerebral malaria, malaria does that.
Normal malaria.
Okay.
Does that.
Yes.
Okay.
So
So there's a
And with the
possibility
yes.
that indeed he actually just got
Walked
up
out.
of the bed and walked out.
Yes.
However,
But
He was
how
under
does
the
he
care.
walk out?
Nobody sees him, and you know that this individual was in this kind of a sensitive situation. As you're saying, you are aware that this person was sick to this degree. They even said themselves that he was sick, he was weak, he could not. So obviously you know that he could not have gone far. Did you bother to check within the confines of the
Plus,
hospital?
also somebody who has cerebral malaria will be confused and will act confused. It will be clear this person is not okay.
I'm with the family. Yeah, I say that the hospital has some responsibility here. I'm with them. For sure.
It doesn't matter how they twist it. This one. It's on them.
Square.
these are stories that, this is coming from a county hospital. These are stories that are all over the country.
Didn't we just talk about one the other day when this gentleman took his wife to hospital with high sugar?
Yep, in
And
Tana
then-
River County.
And then she dies, and then nobody has an explanation. Oh, okay, we don't know.
Well, that was in Mama Lucy.
Mal-
Kitangela
Lucy-
here.
The issue of Mama Lucy
Lucy
moving
and
to
then Bagathi.
Bagathi.
Yes,
Yes.
Bagavi.
There was the other one of the gentleman who took his wife to get a baby in Tana River. And then they were
then-
told, go to Garissa.
Go to
And
Garissa.
then,
How? Then you just say it's a story. Ni bahati mbaya, that nonsense phrase. Sorry. You just cover it up. There are too many stories like this happening.
okay. So those are stories, but those are not stories that appear to matter to anybody. Because what appears to matter is whether people should be deported or not. It's 7:15. Let's take another quick break. But are you looking at the paper as we are looking at all the papers? If you have a Telcom line, you can access the Standard e-paper. Just dial *550*1# for 20 shillings daily. You have access to the Standard e-paper. Dial *550*2#, and then you have access to the Nairobian. Or if you dial *550*3#, you have access to the daily pullouts. Today is Tuesday, it's a Financial Standard. So you get all these, the Standard pullouts, 5 shillings daily, the Nairobian or the Standard is 20 bob daily. All fees deducted from your airtime on a daily basis.
When you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say, I'm a Christian and all that, and they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. We don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us to assert our will.
When the legislators are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learn that Jeshi la Wokovu is Jeshi la Wokovu.
And Kalen say it very well. No, ni mtu wa Jeshi la Wokovu.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
The name is NCBA, and the numbers that matter to you matter to us. Get NCBA SME business solutions tailored to your business and start counting the special memories. NCBA Bank. Go for it. NCBA Bank is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
What is in the daily
mornings?
What do you call it?
The daily business. Headline.
Uh-huh.
But before I get to this headline, there's something, I don't know what you call it, a promo, I don't know what you call it, but where one of our guests says, you people elect us, we are one of you.
Senator Susan Kihika.
Yes, but also the MP for Gilgil also said something similar. It is absolutely true. But we don't elect you to be like us.
We elect you
to be better.
We elect you to change.
That's the whole point. We elect you to be leader, to show us something better by example and to do things which are better. But if you are like us, then you don't deserve that job.
Are you serious?
Yes, you can't.
Elevated position. You must do better than us.
If you're a leader, you must lead. You must show us the things that we ought to
be done.
Yes, because it is correct when they say they're like us in many ways. We understand, but we look at you and we feel you can take us to a better place. But if all you're telling us is you're like us, then for heaven's sake, just give that job to somebody else, because you just come down and be with us here. Let's give somebody else who can lead and show us what needs to be done, because that's what leaders do.
Voila.
Yes. You blaze a trail. Right. Daily business. Sorry. Business daily. Eric, you've confused me. Non-NHIF members to be denied state services. Let me just read it for you. Kenyans without proof of NHIF membership will be locked out of government services under proposed rules that seek compulsory enrollment of every adult in the state-run medical scheme. Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Just wait and see. Next you're going to hear, if you don't have a Huduma number, no services for you.
That is clear. That's already, that one.
Yes.
In fact, it should start tomorrow.
Because you have your card. Come on, get out, Joe. Because you have gotten and picked your card.
So that's a proposal in line with the proposal to have all adults contribute to NHIF as part of UHC.
Yes.
Okay.
The NHIF says membership to the fund will be ranked equally with other state documents such as KRA PIN and when in search of government service. So from now on, you want to open a bank account, NHIF card, PIN, Huduma number, ID, passport, birth certificate.
Letter from the chief.
Letter from the chief, sorry, and driving license.
Yes.
All those are consolidated into Huduma number.
Yes. And
it will work very well. Once your Huduma number is keyed in, right, your status just appears. NHIF, green. Driving license renewal, green. PIN, you are tax compliant, green. Any of those where there's an wishy-washy, amber or red. Sasa unajua mdosi hapa ndio tukupatia hii
utatusamehe
burial certificate, lazima kwanza uko na dani ya nini ya KRA.
Hatuwezi
let me just read the things that you will likely be denied. Okay?
Which state services are these?
Well, transacting registration of land titles.
Yeah.
Okay, yo, oesekane. Then approval of development plans. So if you want to build in a place where they don't require development plans. Transfer and licensing of motor vehicles, registration of businesses and companies. Hey, yeah.
But I think I like.
Because
I like you see, what we are talking about is how do we get universal health coverage?
Yeah.
Have we all agreed that the anchor for universal health coverage is NHIF?
Yes.
A contributory scheme where people are contributing. Okay. So if we say that and then we say adults from a certain age are then expected to be regular contributors, and those that are, categorized as indigent, those who cannot, are supported by the government, sawa.
It's true.
Sasa from that point on,
Yeah.
twende, enforce.
I agree, because I think the previous stance was, okay, please everybody contribute. Let's get as many people into this bracket as possible.
Yeah.
But that's seeming not to work. And I think we also get confused sometimes when we look and we say, look at what is happening in other countries. The truth of the matter, the NHS, for example, touted to be one of the best medical schemes or services in the world, is taken from people's taxes. It's not that the government has decided, okay, let's just put this fund together. It is contributions from a majority of the people. So everybody is taxed a little bit of money, but then they make sure that they're able to put this service together, which is the case. And because they have so many people contributing directly from their taxes, it is mandatory to contribute. But what are they able to do? They're able to make sure that you can go in there and get free healthcare, but you're contributing nominally to the full amount. So this could be one way to get there. Say, almost forcing your hand to contribute so that you can now have this care in place.
I personally see nothing wrong with it.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
If it's going to get us where we need to be,
I would actually argue it's long overdue.
Yeah. If it's going to get to the point,
there.
these other stories of people not being able to access healthcare because of 1, 2, 3, and you can actually contribute a nominal figure and then have it there for everyone.
This NHIF, maybe people who never use it don't understand. It is very
Life-saving.
useful.
Life-saving.
And it works.
Yeah.
You may hear of these teething problems because of this scheme and the other, but it works. From the days when all it did was pay for the hospital bed, even then, it worked because it saved you a chunk of money.
It's right now paying for life-saving procedures, dialysis. It's paying for a lot of treatments. People are not spending a cent out of their pocket because of a contribution that one family member or another is making. I think, look, the merits far outweigh the demerits, if you ask me.
So let's talk about church a bit, okay?
Sure.
There is the issue of bread and wine. Bread signifies what?
The body.
And wine is?
The blood.
And living bread is therefore?
The living body.
Okay. There was an organization that was started in Kajiado County a couple of years ago called Living Bread Foundation.
Oh, Lord.
It later changed its name to the Global Foundation Alliance. That's the foundation I want to talk about. More than 4,000 parents in Kitengela, Kajiado County, have been duped into giving money totaling to millions of shillings to a church-based organization with the promise that their children's school fees will be paid by donors. This organization, that was initially known as the Living Bread Foundation and later changing its name to the Global Foundation Alliance, was first introduced in churches last year in Kajiado. It has now spread to Machakos, Makueni, Kiambu, Murang'a, and Embu, among other counties, with Nairobi serving as the headquarters. The free goodies word spread like bushfire among worshippers, with thousands lining up to enroll their children. Local pastors were recruited, serving as the bridge between the foundation and the parents. 23 pastors were ordained on February 7th, each paying 7,500 to be ordained, according to documents obtained by the Nation. Our fellow pastors enticed us into what is turning out to be a mega scam. I paid 7,500 to be ordained as a reverend associated with the Global Foundation Alliance. Most of my church members registered their children. This might be the beginning of many church collapses in Kitengela. This is according to a Kitengela pastor. According to forms filled out by the parents, which was seen by the Nation who were writing the story, the foundation had promised to offer needy students full primary and secondary education scholarships. To register, Your pupil, you are just required to pay a paltry amount of 300 shillings, while secondary school students are only required to pay 500 shillings. Yes, registration fee. Si school fees. Toa tu 300, mtoto wako atalipua primary, free. 500, mtoto wako atalipua secondary, free. 2 months ago, the organization demanded 2,500 more via text messages sent to the parents. Some parents paid the extra money. The program targeted poor families living in informal settlements and the Maasai community living in Manyatas. Sasa, kemeumana. Sema kemeumana. Pastor Nancy Kisia, a retired teacher who was the organization's chief coordinator until June 2021, when she left the foundation, said she registered more than 2,000 children from Kitengela and its environs. Her M-Pesa records show that between January 16th and May 9th, she wired 1.3 million shillings to the director of the Global Foundation Alliance, Bishop Joseph Otieno Nandwa. Since she left the organization, she claims her life has been full of intimidation and threats from strange people. However, Bishop Nandwa, speaking to the nation, insisted he is working on a program with 14 countries abroad to offer sponsorships to needy children. He, maneno, what is it? We are still working on bringing living bread.
You know how much 2,000 shillings times 2,500? 2,000 students times 2,500 shillings, 5 million.
And just Kitengela alone.
5 million.
This thing is in Machakos, it's in Makueni, it's in Murang'a, it's in Kiambu, it's in Nairobi.
And the more painful thing is that those children did not do what?
What I'd like to ask is not really an academic or a philosophical question, but those who believe in a heaven and a hell, is there a special place in hell where individuals such as this one should be taken to, meaning special treatment? Because how on earth do you prey on people who are already disadvantaged?
Imagine. Going for the
without
vulnerable
compunction
and robbing from the vulnerable. And saying we are still working with some countries. That clearly means that you started this thing without a plan. My friend, this is somebody who should now be deported.
Absolutely.
And should be making the headlines. Anybody else who's been deported and is in the headlines, in my opinion, is waste of newspaper time, waste of taxpayers' time. Completely. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, coming to the top of the hour. It's now 7 o'clock. In the next hour, we speak to activist Boniface Mwangi. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has issued guidelines on the amount of money to be spent by various candidates in next year's general election campaigns. Presidential candidates have been asked to spend less than 4.4 billion shillings in all the 47 counties. At the county level, Turkana County Office hopefuls can spend more funds during their campaigns as compared to other counties. This comes as IBC boss confirmed that elections will be held on the 9th of August next year.
The Commission shall conduct the next general elections on the 9th of August 2022. Let me take this earliest opportunity to reiterate that the Commission is committed to deliver free, fair and credible elections in 2022. The Commission equally remains committed to engaging all stakeholders in the process, and we have an open door policy which fosters citizen participation in the electoral process.
Meanwhile, National Assembly Speaker Justin Muthui has called on IBC to stop wasting time on non-issues and prepare for free, fair elections. Speaking after the electoral body published proposed election rules and regulations, Muthui said the agency should have by now started voter education to prepare Kenyans for next year's elections. He further asked IBC Chair Wafula Chebukati to stop crying out in public over missing allocations, but should instead write to Parliament to provide funds.
Badala ya kushinda mkizungumza maneno mingi ambayo haina maana, anzeni kufundisha Wakenya what is called voter education.
Deputy President William Ruto has condemned the arrest and subsequent deportation of Turkish national Aydin Harun. Ruto says that he had spoken to Aydin, who confirmed that he was asked to leave the country after being arrested, tortured and falsely profiled as a terrorist. The DP accused government operatives of engaging in political pettiness, adding that this was dangerous for the economy. Ruto's aide Kapseret MP Oscar Sudi spoke on behalf of him.
Kwa sasa tumepata habari ya kwamba kwa sababu hawa watu kama vile tulivyosema, hii mambo yote ni siasa, hawana kitu yoyote ya kumstaka naye. Ile wangefanya tu, na tulikuwa tunaongojea hiyo na kutarajia hiyo sana, ukimdeport. Hii mambo yote ni siasa, kama vile nilisema kuanzia last week ya kwamba huyo mwekezaji Aaron ninamjua kutoka kule kwao, na nikaomba ya kwamba kama anashikwa wanishike na mimi, na kama ni terrorist pia mimi ni terrorist.
And finally, blogger Robert Alai has been charged in a Kibra court with assault on gospel singer Alex Apoko, also known as Rington. Alai denied any wrongdoing before Senior Principal Magistrate Philip Muthui and was granted a 1 million shillings bond or a 300,000 shillings bill with a surety of the same amount. He was charged with causing grievous harm to the singer last month on Cotton Road in Kilimani, Nairobi. He was also charged with damaging Apoko's car windows willfully and unlawfully. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Okay, building up a little bit, right around that Kiambu Road junction leading to Muthaiga Square. Thika Road, other than that, is looking pretty good this morning. We're also seeing that there's traffic along Chiromo headed out into the city. Using Thika Road is not a bad idea to then go out and come back into the city, and then coming out on Waiaki. All right, so that doesn't look too bad right now. Coming out of industrial area as well is looking good right now. We're seeing some traffic on Langata Road, but it's not too terrible. We'll keep an eye on things this morning. That's what they look like at the moment. Let's talk in a bit. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
Yes, a very good morning to you wherever you're tuned in now this morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation at 5 minutes after 7. We are very happy that you are joining us this morning. We get into the second hour and we begin the hour like we'll always do with a word proverb.
Rain does not recognize anyone as a friend. It drenches all equally.
Rain does not recognize anyone as a friend. It drenches all equally.
You know, it's a proverb. I am certain that people who are in Greece, Canada, Turkey, all these places that are being ravaged by wildfire, people in the African plateau, if only it were true and if only it were raining and it was drenching.
And it was drenching their lands.
Yes, it was. Because these wildfires, my friend, it's odd. You have wildfires on the one hand, you have floods in other places.
And then you have a very cold Kenya in the middle of August.
Yes. Yes. Bone-biting cold.
Really?
What's happening?
Yes, really. Oh, ye of little faith.
Bone-biting cold.
Yes.
It's nice.
She doesn't see how a bone can be bitten.
God save us from literal people.
So, in a couple of minutes, we'll be reaching out to activist Boniface Mwangi. He released a message yesterday on his social media platforms where he was talking about everything else, right? And we'll be asking what exactly he meant. He was basically saying that it's about time that he took a break, right? And that is courage takes a break. He has been on the courageous front. We want to understand exactly what he means by that. Before then, there's this matter that has been in the papers for quite a while now. So the Deputy President, it's reported, had a private visit planned to Uganda. The Deputy President, it's reported, was to go to Uganda in the company of several people who are closely associated with him, some members of parliament, others not members of parliament, and also to be included in that trip was a businessman from Turkey who is not reported has any business interest in Kenya. But, well, that's not the issue yet. It is reported that the Deputy President was barred from leaving the country. But the businessman and the politicians left. The politicians were back into the country within 24 hours because the following day they were busy frothing over their mouths in the National Assembly talking about the mistreatment of the Deputy President. The gentleman, the businessman, returned to the country, and it is reported that he was picked up by police officers at Wilson Airport upon landing. It's also reported that efforts by his lawyers to reach him and everybody else and those who knew him to reach him in the police custody were futile, so they were expecting him to be brought to court yesterday. It's then said that he was deported. Over that whole week and over the weekend, what we saw was people around the Deputy President and the Deputy President himself taking that and making it an issue. You cannot politicize business where there's investors coming into the country. You cannot mistreat them. All this and the other happening at that time. This was a conversation. The Deputy President was in Nyanza, apparently doing what was, I think, launching the bottom-up economic blueprint in Nyanza region and having a conversation about that. But some of the clips that are coming out of there was he and his supporters talking about this particular matter, this time about the Turkish investor. Now he's been deported. The Deputy President takes on Twitter and says he has reached out to the Turkish investor and apologized on behalf of the government of Kenya for the mistreatment that he's been given as a foreign investor who's come into the country, and then he's been given this kind of treatment. I'm asking myself, what is all this? I don't know, CT, the paragon of wisdom. What's happening here?
Let me speak in Kiswahili and mpaka siagi.
Yes.
He's smearing me with butter. If I'm to go by the article that Machara Gaitho penned in today's Nation, he takes the matter back to the days when Raila Odinga's father, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, was a vice president. And even then, the deep state, the kitchen cabinet, as we used to call them then, similar accusations were made. In fact, it was alleged that Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was actually importing arms from some Eastern European country and China to try and overthrow the government. And as time proved, it was utter hogwash. Okay? Now, the argument that has been put forward here, and this is an argument that I think one should consider, there is nothing about the Deputy President's travels that you can call a secret. Deputy President leaving the country, nothing secretive. We may not know as the Wananchi, but the state apparatus does. So, again, if I'm to look at this argument that has been put forth by Machara Gaitho, everything at the airport seemed to have been geared towards embarrassing the DP to the maximum. Because if someone didn't want him to travel, or whoever it is, he need not even have left his residence.
He could have found out about it before.
Could have just been told, you know something, Nani, you cannot travel. But that having been said, there is talk of this Turkish gentleman who had been given a clean bill of health by his government and who apparently was an investor. Nobody tells you of any investment that he has made. There's some vague reference to vaccine producing facility. There's all this discussion. But then again, every time there's that discussion, it raises issues. Does the government of Uganda need our deputy president to be able to get them an investor who can bring about such an investment? It's a question that is asked.
You've raised something that's very interesting. I remember the death of the businessman. I think he was operating in Somalia. He was of American origin.
He was a Kenyan?
He was Kenyan.
He was operating in Kenya.
In Kenya,
yes.
right?
Yep.
He died.
He disappeared.
And then
his car was found.
Yeah.
His body was later found.
His car was found, burnt.
Yep.
Right. But the businesses or the investments that he supposedly was involved in were also listed at that time. People knew what it was that he was doing.
Yeah.
Whether he was or not, whether he was in part or in business with other people, but it was listed. Some real estate property in South Sudan, some government projects.
Contracts.
It was clear. This gentleman, Aydin, this Turkish fellow, as you say, what business is it that he was involved in? And then why was he then a person of interest then when it came to a flag off about terrorism or things like that? Why is it that you will not hear that he invested, whether it was Uganda, DR, Congo, South Africa, wherever it was? Why didn't you hear that there was this and this project that he was involved in? Then what it does is that it just gives more credence to the supposed dodginess that could have been involved here. And was there then reason for the government of Kenya to say, hold on a minute, there's something untoward here. It is within our rights, within our sovereignty as country. We think that there's any kind of threat to us, we will then ask you, albeit politely, to do what? To leave.
Yes, but also the state operators have also been known to be mischievous. If for some reason or the other they do find you an unpalatable character, or for some reason there is this phrase that they like using, they want to put you in your place, okay? Then all manner of things can happen to you.
Are you saying, CT, that this gentleman was gotten rid of? I'm just putting it out here, right? This gentleman was gotten rid of, or
no.
a message was being sent to stick it to the deputy president?
I am saying that possibility exists. And why I'm saying that possibility exists is because we've seen it before. If for some reason the state operators do not consider you to be a favorable flavor, your life can be made very uncomfortable. What on earth was the deputy president doing at the airport for 5 hours? 5 hours. You cannot leave this country, whether it's on a chartered flight or on any flight, without authorities knowing that you are leaving the country. Okay? You cannot.
So it's that they knew that he was going, but they were trying to frustrate him.
What I'm saying is this. The situation we find ourselves in raises a lot of questions. And I'm merely providing conjecture. Because the state may know exactly why it is they stopped. They may know exactly who this person is. And the issue of someone bearing a similar name, being charged on held on terrorism charges in Germany, again, it was proved that that person was not a terrorist.
Yes.
Okay? And this name is as common as Kamau, Onyango, Wekesa, Musao, Katana. It's a common name. Okay? Now, what is unfortunate is this. The conjecture I'm referring to has to do with our history and a time when it is perceived or it has been presented to be understood that someone is not on good terms with the apparatus of state. And unfortunately, that particular label is being stuck to the deputy president now. So, everything that happens, it's unfortunate that his circumstances don't help his case either, because no, it doesn't. Not very long ago, we had a problem with the property that unfortunately, his businesses are associated with, which have to do with land, which there is an issue with the airport authorities. There is an issue with a school that is neighboring that property. Then there was this supposed arms dealer who went to his offices. That the moment there are stories to which your name is attached, even if the stories do not bear out to be true, but they are there, or if they remain and responded to, and they're in the public domain. With the deputy president, it begins as far back as after 2008 when it was claimed he appropriated a certain gentleman by the name of Muthui. That thing went to court and he was ordered to make compensation. When you are in an office as high as that and there are all these things attached to your name, unfortunately, anything that is mentioned that is untoward will receive very easy reception.
It'll stick.
Yes.
For
Even
sure.
if there is nothing to prove it that it is true, the likelihood is that it will be seen as being true simply because there's conjecture.
I think there's a lot more that meets the eye with all this drama, and I think that some of the issues that we see that make the news are then being used as pawns in this game of chess. There's something that's going on. It has a political tinge. It has a lessons must be learnt tinge as well. And we are not privy to the inside information, but we're being dragged into this circus. That is the case right now. Whether there was a deportation, whether there was somebody who was involved in terrorism, whether the deputy president was or was not supposed to travel. And then, as a by the way, there was this individual who is of sticky character, who then also was on the same flight. I mean, my goodness, we could go on for days.
And you see, the
but
label...
we don't have the finer details of the story.
The label of a possible link to terrorism, there are two brothers who, unfortunately, also were labeled as such. All I'm saying is so much conjecture, so much innuendos, this and the other. So you add on this to it, unfortunately then, all you've done is feed the fertile minds of anybody who wants to play a guessing game.
Sure, but I do think there's something funny going on, though. Something somewhere.
Funny in which direction?
Something, I think in any direction that you could look at, that this gentleman is not being deported because somebody doesn't like the look of his face. It must have been something that gave them, adequate reasoning to do this.
The government doesn't need adequate reason to deport you.
On the face of it, it would seem
if they want to deport you, they'll deport you.
You know, me, I'm quiet in this issue because I remember that we have a constitution in this country. This constitution creates two offices and elevates them to the highest position in the country. The office of president, the office of deputy president. In 2017, I don't remember the date, but you all remember watching it, we saw Mr. William Ruto swear and he read, "I, William Ruto, in full realization of the high calling I assume as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, do swear and solemnly affirm that I'll be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Republic of Kenya, that I will obey, preserve, protect, and defend this Constitution of Kenya as by law established, and all other laws of the Republic, and that I will protect and uphold the sovereignty, integrity, and dignity of the people of Kenya. So help me God." I will protect, uphold the sovereignty, integrity, and dignity of the people of Kenya. This is the same oath of office that was sworn by a gentleman who called himself I, Uhuru Kenyatta. Said the same words. Instead of deputy president, he said president. And he took another second office. This whole drama, the deputy president is somebody who has access to a lot of information that you and I will never have access to.
Or even know exists.
The deputy president knows exactly what is happening in this case. Those who denied him travel to Uganda for whatever reason know exactly why they did it. Those who arrested this Turkish investor know exactly why they did it. And those who deported him know exactly why they did it. Are they telling us why they did it?
No.
None of them is coming out to tell us this is the reason the deputy president did not leave the country. The deputy president himself is not coming on to say, this is what I was told by the officers who denied me access to the plane. He hasn't told us. All we see is him saying, tumeachia Mungu, or Mungu mbele, or whatever. They know exactly what game they are playing. They know why he did not go to Uganda, what he was going to do to in Uganda. They know why this businessman was in Kenya and has come to Kenya many times. They know him. They know why he went to Uganda. They know what he did in Uganda. They know why he was coming back to They know why they arrested him. They know why he left. We have not seen any statement or any official complaint about his deportation by the government of Turkey. And that's why I sit back and I ask myself, why am I bothering to give even a minute to this conversation? This is something that these people who are playing this game know what game they are playing. And by giving it time, I'm basically accepting to become a pawn in a game that I have no clue about the rules, about the scoring, about the players, about when it started or when it's going to end. I just know I'm a pawn. Why do I want to do that?
That is, if you're lucky and you know you're a pawn.
Yes.
Because you may be a pawn and you don't even know you're a pawn.
You don't even realize it. A story like this takes precedence in the headlines when we talked about how many counties? Over 10 counties are facing starvation.
11.
Millions of people are facing starvation. We are talking about COVID ravaging homes, destroying people's livelihoods, parents dying, siblings dying. We have issues to deal with, and what is occupying our minds is what? A man was kicked out of the country. And those who are complaining are not telling us, this is exactly why this gentleman was here. This is what he was supposed to do. Is there anything wrong here? They're not telling us. That means they know. They know what he was doing. They know why they were doing this. This is, anybody who wants to discuss it, the newspaper bosses want to put it in the headlines, it's okay. I recognize that I have the privilege of having a platform. And I don't think it would be responsible of me to use this platform to bring in more people, to whip up emotions, and use this platform to make people pawns of a game that we don't understand. I think it's wrong. This matter does not deserve headlines.
And yet,
wacha watuambie ile kitu wanataka. This is what we call this dead cutting. Don't distract us. There are very many things that matter to this country. There are very many things today that need to be addressed. And this issue of a trip, I don't think this is a matter that even deserves to be talked, unless you're going to come and tell us this is why we need you to talk about it. Please, don't have to.
Eric has just acquired a new role. Eric has become the proverb.
The proverb is in the room.
Yes.
So let's talk about what's happening into the next general election, right? We've seen the date is clear. We know the date. The IEBC has started doing what it's doing. We've heard the Speaker of the National Assembly telling the IEBC, look, you guys need money. Follow the proper channel and requisition for that money. And all that. The active citizen Boniface Mwangi spoke yesterday, and he released a statement on social media where he was saying, I've done my bit and I feel that it's time that I took a break. And I just want to play a clip of part of the long clip of what he recorded and posted on his social media. And then he'll join us on video call shortly to explain to us what exactly this means. Just listen to this.
It's very sad that in this country, that qualification for public office is not ideas, is not vision, is not passion, is not love. For you to become elected in this country, you need money. It can be very dirty money. You need a criminal record. So if you rape, you murder, you loot, and you have a bad reputation, you qualify for public office. If you're willing to compromise your values and go and appease a tribal kingpin or affiliate or associate with a big tribal kingpin, then you can become electable. And I don't think that I'm ready to compromise my values to get elected. The people who are running for president, I don't believe in any of them. The big parties, I don't believe in any of them. And so I don't want to be in that mess of trying to beg people for votes, while knowing very well when it comes to go to the ballot, they'll be voting for their tribe, they'll be voting for someone who bribed them, or they'll be voting for God knows what. If you look at the electorate, the more money you have, the more bad reputation you have, the more crooked you are, the more likely to get elected.
It was basically here, giving a background. This is the frustration that very many people feel when they want to throw their hat in the ring and say, you know what, people, I'd like to be given the opportunity to lead. I'd like to be given the opportunity to serve the people of Kenya. He did this in 2017. He vied. He wanted to be the MP for Starehe constituency. He ran a campaign. He did some crowdfunding. People supported him. He did not win that election. And now Boniface Mwangi joins us on the line. Good morning, Boniface.
Good morning, Eric and the team. How are you?
We're very well, thank you. A very good morning to you. So this video, we just played a bit of it, but there was a bigger message at the end that we have not reached, because we want you to take this opportunity before you even go further and tell us the message that you were sending yesterday. What is that message?
That I'm not going to be in elective politics. I was feeling like I was eligible bachelor or a single woman in the market, because every other day I was getting calls and call for meetings from people who are in the big political parties. Join our party, come work with us. And I'm like, no, we don't share values. So let me step out of the arena and say that I'm not going to buy again, and I'm not going to be in the next year's elections, and I'm not going to comment about what's going to happen for the next 1 year. I'm just going to step away from this, because I feel like I'm a mad person. I say the same thing every single day, and no one is listening to me. So I look like the crazy one. So I said, you know what? I'm going to step away for the sake of my mental wellness and my mental health.
Bonnie, obviously, I mean, also listening to some of the things that you said yesterday, that you put yourself out there and you were not elected. This position that you are at right now, had you been elected, would it be the same?
I think it would be very, very different, because I thought if I was going to get elected, I was going to just continue the fight inside Parliament and continue what I've been doing for the last 4 years. Fight for public grounds, elect people's issues. I would have been an activist in Parliament, but I was never given that chance. But in the last 4 years, even without being elected, I was fighting for people's rights every single day. So nothing changed in my life. The only thing I did have is a paycheck, but I was still a people's member of Parliament.
Are you giving up? Because a lot of folks would say, well, you know, this is a fight, blood, sweat and tears. You've been at it for very, very many years. And maybe folks are saying, okay, well, if he's giving up, if somebody who had this position and was really fighting in something that we did believe in, if he's giving up, what happens to the rest of us? Are you giving up?
No, I haven't given up. I just don't want to die. And I think I'm overwhelmed. I see and read so many things every day. People's problems, people's pain, what they're going through. And I try and do my small thing. The problem is it's overwhelming. Where does the doctor go to get healing? Where does the priest go when they hear all these confessions? And I want to draw myself from social media, Twitter, Facebook, just get away from that so that I can actually just heal, because I walk around as a very wounded person. There's so much pain inside of me because of what I've seen, what I've read, and the helplessness that I feel, because I can only do as much. So for every single story that I post online, I have like 50 of them, and I'm only one person. So if I want to stay longer and be there for my kids, I just need to step away. I haven't given up, because I haven't given up.
Boniface.
Yes, sir.
I've heard you say you are alone, you are not being listened to, you probably feel you are not making an impact. Actually, I believe that the complete opposite of what you're saying is what is actually true. Because this path you've chosen, unfortunately, is a fairly thankless one. It's not one of these things where people will come around thanking you for the wonderful things that you're doing. What they'll keep doing is demanding that you do more and more. But more importantly, the step you're taking, in my view, is a good one, because sometimes you need to let air get into the system. You need to take a breather. Because if you don't do that, then what faces you is what you call a burnout. You will be fatigued all the time. The very things that gave you joy will not give you joy. You don't want to get there, because then you will be unproductive to the people you value the most, your family. So a break in this thankless job that you chose to do is absolutely necessary, and you need to recharge. So what we are going to do is we're going to invite you to the studio to join us so that you can be part of our system when we have a guest host. So we can discuss non-consequential things like Turks being deported from the country, and we can discuss even less significant things like the deputy president being held at the airport. Simple issues that wananchi like discussing without too much seriousness, and things which really don't have any consequence on the lives of people. But you need the break.
But I take a different view here, Boniface. When you come out and say that, you feel that you'd like to serve, you feel like you'd like to lead, and you become an active citizen, it should be for the long haul. It should be that, you get to a point where you're here, you take the opportunity to lead. You don't necessarily have to lead by being in parliament, but you lead in your whatever circle you're in. Now, you have had the privilege of actually having a very big circle where you have influenced very many people. You have influenced conversations. You've taken part in leading many things that have had an impact. Maybe you have not felt it yourself, and I'm sure there are very many that you have felt, but it's there. But that's part of it. That's it. If you say, I want to step back from leadership because you are a leader, you are an influencer. If you say you want to step back, whom are you leaving it to?
Everyone else. We are about 47 million Kenyans who need to stand up and do something similar or continue the struggle. Let me tell you this, Eric. So I am 8 years old, unemployed, and then when I went to the bank, the same bank that I've banked for 15 years, they told me I'm a PEP. I'm a politically exposed person, and they can't give me a loan. And I thought I was an honest citizen. I'm serious.
Oh, banks.
So you could not access financing from a bank because you have been profiled as a politically exposed person.
Yes.
He's high risk, in short.
And so imagine trying to live my life every day, and then people fear me. I go to our family meetings and friends, and they say, "Are you recording us? Are you going to tweet?" People get answers around. So I don't even know that I'm getting the love and the support because I'm Boniface or because I'm on Twitter. It's just tough. So I've told my friends and family, I'm leaving Facebook, I'm leaving Twitter, I'm logging out today, and I won't be there for a long time. So when you see me as me. It's a tweet.
Boniface, that path is a well-trodden path. I'm going to give you an example. There is, if you go to Hellingham, there is a hotel right now, I think it's called Four Seasons. Before that, it had many other names, and it was an establishment that people like going to, especially dons from the University of Nairobi. Now, there's somebody who followed this path that you're following, and he even ended up being a prime minister. At that time, he worked but by that time, he had worked for the University of Nairobi. When he'd enter that establishment, people would take off.
He was politically exposed.
No, he was radioactive. People did not want that association at all. So when I look at the way people clamor around him and want to be his friends and want to be his buddy and what have you, you see, when I called it thankless, I gave my mind the liberty of giving it a historical check.
Yes.
This job that you've chosen, unfortunately, cannot win a popularity contest if you are talking about standing up for what is right. In the history of mankind, anybody standing for anything that is right, unfortunately, that is the path that people follow. Even forget people who have similar thoughts. How many people do you know of with whom you started the journey and whom have since left? It's
many of them.
Precisely. Because those who oppose some of these things have the means to attract these people and to get them on their side.
Yes.
That's why I was saying that at times with a job such as this one that you've chosen, a breather is necessary. Letting air into the system is necessary. Because, believe me, there's a limit to how much any human being can take when it comes to, you know what you're doing, you know what you intend to purpose, and yet it is so thankless. You keep asking, why on earth am I doing all this? Why am I bothering with all this? And yet, my friend, what you're doing is genuinely significant.
In addition to that, Boniface, I mean, and I don't think we are in that place where we're saying our job today or any other day after that is to persuade you to change your mind, but maybe to let you in on a few insights. And that's the basis for my question, which has two parts. One, when you started out this life, this particular way in which you have been agitating for the rights of Kenyans, trying to push for good governance and leadership in the country, why did you do it? What convinced you that it was absolutely necessary to have this kind of active participation? What convinced you? And the second part of that question is, has that changed?
So I began this journey on a very selfish ground or reason. Because my father, that time was father of one child, and I thought, you know what, I need to change my country for my son. So by the time he's grown up, Kenya will be a different country. It was one child and I have 3 kids. So every single day when I went out to the streets and I protested, I was involved just for my kids. I must play my role as a citizen to make this country better for them. And nothing has changed. The only thing that actually has changed, my mental wellness has become worse over the years. I'm more angry, I'm more irritable. I walk around as a very bitter, angry person. And every time I go on social media, I feel like I just go into drink poison because I get attacked, I get insulted. There's so much bile against me, and there's nothing wrong I've done.
Right.
I'm not a criminal. I don't have a criminal record. I don't earn from taxpayers' money. I've never gotten a single cent from taxpayers. And so instead of me being that space where I'm hated, I want to come home to where I'm loved. I want to become friends to my friends. Because meaning that I wake up every day to open Twitter and Facebook, that means I'm out of that bubble of friends, that I'm actually living with strangers and trying to appease strangers. Now I want to dedicate for the next 1 year loving my friends, appeasing my friends and my family, just enjoying the simple things in life and seeing things without thinking, let me tweet, let me Instagram, let me do this. Because every day when I see something, I want to share with the world. I want to stop sharing with the world and enjoy the moment. So nothing has changed. It's just because I feel like I've been poisoned by my love for this country to a level where I'm a danger to myself, and also I am that guy that people don't be around.
Boniface, let me ask you a question. What did you expect to see happening? All the efforts you've made, the things you've done, what did you expect to see happening?
A different mindset. I thought we'll get a ballot revolution. I thought if you've committed a crime or you are that person who is wrong in this country or who is in this country will never be accepted. I thought that for once, integrity, honest, hard work would be promoted. I thought that Kenyans would just think differently and say, let us become selfish. One of the things that I learned after running for public office is that poor people hate poor people. And poor people don't even love themselves. Because poor people are the ones who are voting for the wrong leaders, who are voting for people who exploit them. Poor people have such low self-esteem to a level where they don't think Kenya can be better. They don't even see themselves becoming richer. They can't imagine to dream. They're so poor, they can't dream Kenya can be better. And when I went to work with them, they would ask me, who are you voting for president? Who are you supporting? Instead of telling me, how do we make our community better? Let me give a quick story, if you have a minute for me. So the Mukuru slums campaigning, I went to this man's house. Small shanty. He has 3 kids and a wife. That means 5 in the family. They don't even have a sewer. They have no toilets. They shit in paper bags. And I told him, I'm going to work for you. I'm going to build public toilets. I'm going to build a library. I never went to high school, but I'm self-educated. So I'm going to ensure that your kids have access to a public library and their public toilets. I'm going to make this community better. And this man who shits in a paper bag looks at me and says, lakini pale juu napigia nani? Who are you voting for president? Because his problem right there is the toilet and access to clean water. That's sanitation. But before he votes for me, he asked me, who will you vote for president? That will determine how I'm going to vote for you. I want my last message to Kenyan people. Please be selfish. Watch out for yourselves. I go a lot to East Lands. East Lands are kunanga miti. If you want to know how poor you are, open your window. How many trees do you see? If there are no trees in your community, you're poor. You're poor. If there's no place in your community, you're poor. If you buy water every day, you're poor. If you use a matatu every day and there's no reliable public transport, you're poor. So poor people hate poor people. And poor people in this country are the biggest problem. Because when I was running for public office, I was upper middle class. My kids go to private schools. I don't use public transport. I'm upper middle class. And the truth is, the people that I was trying to serve and work for are poor people. But poor people hated me because I was not coming there to bribe them and to give them t-shirts and tell them how I'm going to change their lives by appointing their relatives. I was just saying, I'm going to ensure that the government works for you, that your taxes work for you. They despised me. They hated me.
Boniface, so over the years, there's something called experience. So the first time you started this, after the post-election violence, and you went around and you felt you needed to do something, you may have had a certain mindset and a certain thinking of how things could happen and should be done. But over the years, I'm sure you have now realized you've gotten the context of things, of politics, of how others have even done it. You've interacted with people who've been in the trenches. You're a very good friend, for example, to Dr. Willie Mutunga, who's been in the trenches since the 70s, and you've seen how he's gone. When you speak to such people and the counsel that they give you, haven't you changed your approach or seen, all right, so this is how I can temper my expectations, but this is how I can still continue pushing that journey?
So I am an eternal optimist, and I've seen that Willie went to jail in 82, became Chief Justice in 2010. That's about 28 years of struggle for him to become who he is today. So for me to survive in the long, I need to leave the space so that I can actually heal.
Okay.
I went to jail at the age of 11 years old. I was in approved school. I was expelled at 14. I've been working since I was 14 years old. I started paying rent when I was 17. I've never gone for a sabbatical or leave. I've just been there trying to struggle and work, and then being the people's servant. So I've realized that the change that I want to see won't happen overnight. And if I want to survive longer and become less bitter, then I have to remove myself from the situation and the space for me to heal. Bro, I'm a very bitter, hurting person. I'm problematic to my friends.
I get you now. So what you're doing is you're taking a break. You're not quitting.
No, I'm running away from this country. I'm not living this. I just want to heal, bro, because I'm hurting actually every day. Have I been successful yet? I just hurt so much. And right now, when I'm in that position, is like, do I sell out and become one of them, or do I leave the space? And it's much easier for me to live in myself by leaving the space. Because it's very easy for me to say tomorrow I'm UDA, or I'm ODM, or I'm Jubilee. It's so easy for me to do that. I'm so sure they will actually appreciate for me being in the camp. But I'll be standing out for every single thing I've said over the years. And I can't afford to do that. Because by doing that, I'll be killing myself. I'll be dying inside just to appease some people.
Right.
So let me leave. I'm long in contention so that there's no person that... Because the thing is, people wake up to tag me in their problems. I want people to wake up to tag the people they elected. Every single day when you say, there's a problem here, kuna maji here, kuna meshikwa, call your MP, call your MCA, call your governor, call your fucking president. Don't call me.
You're angry, Boniface. How long do you want this break to be? Are you looking at it and saying, well, I want to give myself some 5 years, and then I will review after 5 years?
No, I want to see how you get who you're going to elect for that next president. So
Boniface,
I'll be out as long as you guys are campaigning. If you elect someone, I'm like, oh, that's how you want us Kenya to go, and then I say, oh, I'll come back.
Okay.
So I'm going to come back when you elect the next president.
But but Boniface, that invitation was not a joke. We mean it.
Yes.
Yes, we are going to continue inviting you. You need to let air get into the system.
Let me heal, bro. Let me heal. Let me learn how to dance.
That's the point. We actually want you to heal. We are actually offering you therapy.
Thank you very much. Boniface Mwangi, active citizen, says, courage takes a break. Okay, we'll give you that break. There are very many comments on social media on your Facebook page where you posted this. Martin Mongai says, Boniface, this resonates very well with the anger that I have. I see the social injustice in this country and I ask myself so many times over, are we humans? What are we in this country? I have heard and experienced harrowing stories in the health sector, security, business, education, name them, and I am giving up. What we see on the surface is nothing. Just scratch a little bit and it scares you to death. Many such comments, people wishing you well as you take a break. But also there are those, for example, Arnold Maliba, who says, I know it's traumatic, hard and maims, even kills. Our politics can dehumanize and leaves many lost at sea. But as much as I respect your decision, I don't agree with your choice to walk away.
You have the right to disagree.
Yep. Thank you, Boniface. Take a break. We'll be reaching out to you soon. You will be our guest host after you've taken a bit of a break.
Thank you.
Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Let's take this break to take a look at the traffic and the weather. Those places that are burning, those that are cold. Let's find out where they are, and then we continue the conversations. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
They are stealing every opportunity that you should have. They are stealing your health facilities. They are stealing all the progress that you planned for your child. They are stealing all the benefits that university students should have. Your livelihood is slowly being taken away from you, which means your life is also being slowly taken away from you as you watch.
Cut through the noise and stay in the know by texting the word TSR to 22840 to receive these and more highlights and insights from the Situation Room directly to your mobile phone. Don't miss out on the latest from Kenya's biggest conversation. SMS TSR to 22840.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
At NCBA, we know it's more than a house loan. It's the many memories with your loved ones. Call 0711 056 444 or visit ncbagroup.com for more information on property finance.
Haze over Nairobi at 15, highs of 24 and lows of 15 today. Cloudy conditions at 14 in Nyeri, highs of 22. We'll see highs of 23 in Nakuru. It's mostly sunny at 15, mostly cloudy conditions at 11, highs of 21 and lows of 11 in Eldoret. Mostly sunny at 18 in Kisumu with highs of 25. Partly sunny conditions at 18 in Kakamega, highs of 27 and lows of 14. The highs will be 28 in Mombasa. It's raining now at 23. Light rain at 22 in Malindi, highs of 28 and lows of 22. 18 will be the low in Kampala, where it's mostly sunny, going to highs of 26. Highs of 29 in Dar es Salaam, where it's partly sunny at 22. 7 degrees and mostly cloudy in Johannesburg with highs of 17. It's still raining in Lagos at 24, highs of 29. And 30 will be the high in a mostly clear Kinshasa at 20.
Spice up your life.
All right, at the roundabout at Kamkunji there, just off Landis Road, getting into the CBD, looks like this is where traffic has picked up. It's also picked up on the Thika Superhighway, quite some, coming out of Westerns as well. Muthui Road now is jam-packed. Everybody trying to get out, using Kipande Road as an option and then back into the city. It looks quite crazy now. Bunyala Road at the roundabout, joining from Uhuru Highway, and also on this side from Mombasa Road, some traffic there. Langata Road as well, joining with Lusaka Road. Jogo Road doesn't look too bad right now. Landis Road is what is receiving the majority of the beating today. Apart from that, it looks pretty good, guys. Let's keep an eye on things, shall we? Help us out. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
8. Keep it right here. In the next hour, we speak with the Digital Lenders Association of Kenya. Those are the guys who lend you money on mobile platforms. So, Situ, you kept repeating this and saying, you know what, it's a deserved break. It's important to take a step back and rejuvenate.
Yes.
Explain. I don't get it.
I also use the term burnout. Huh? When you are in a high-pressure job and you're constantly dealing with other people's problems, whether it's in a health setting, in a political setting, social setting, what happens is you walk around with all these things in your head, in addition to your own. Now, at some point, all these issues require alignment in your system, whereas you prioritize, you know, this is someone else's issue, because the way we are wired as human beings, unfortunately, we get affected and influenced by other people's problems. And if those people are close to us, or if it relates to an issue that we consider to be important, it actually impacts on us. It affects us. That's why, for instance, when you hear that somebody has passed away, the media understands this. And that's why they will even tell you this particular scene that you're about to see in this news may have pictures that are unpleasant, that are disturbing, because it's from that understanding that human beings respond in a certain way to certain things. Now, if you are involved in doing the sort of work that Boniface Mwangi does, and why I called it thankless, you are constantly dealing with problematic issues, constantly. There's a limit to how much any person can put up with that. The break is so that, again, as I called it, recharge. Because dealing with people's problems often requires you to be charged on high adrenaline, meaning you're always on the go and on the move. Sometimes there's need to simply stop, completely stop.
For your own health's sake.
For your own health, mental health, your relationships, just stop. Because that life now becomes you. It actually captures you and it dominates you. So nothing else matters. And unfortunately, as human beings, you require that balance. You need to understand that this is work, this is domestic, these are my friends. We tend to call them boundaries.
But then, there are a couple of things here, and I'm just trying to push the boundary on this conversation, right?
Push.
Does it then not speak of the character of the person?
It does, yes.
You cannot stand the heat.
Oh, no.
So you want to keep getting out of the heat.
No.
How many people, how many fighters have we seen say, you know what, I'm taking a break? How many of those revolutionaries have we seen saying, let's take a break?
We don't hear them, but they do take a break.
Do they take a break outside active war?
They don't talk about it. If Boniface hadn't mentioned, we wouldn't have known. He could have taken a break and he wouldn't have spoken of it. We would have just said, oh, maybe he's doing something else. Some people you hear of when they've been hospitalized and you're told so-and-so had a physical breakdown. So-and-so had a mental breakdown. And what happened? We're not really sure. Or so-and-so, whatever it is. So-and-so has become a recluse. So-and-so. There are times when the issues you deal with, and Boniface has expressed it well. And why you heard me talking about it was because part of arriving at the solution that he's seeking involves talking about it. Him talking about his anger, his frustration. That's part of it. Most people don't talk about it, just keep it in. And then your body finds ways of dealing with it or not dealing with it. And that's where the catastrophe begins. So just by talking about it, just being able to express it, that is a positive step. That's really that's the point I was trying to make. The step Boniface has taken, the man is in the public domain. Let the public also know that these things you people keep asking me to do for you is taking a toll on me.
It has an effect on you as an individual.
Yes.
I do also think, and I realize the heavy responsibility that is placed on shoulders of people like this, because whether we choose to realize it or not, people like active citizens such as himself are saying something for a huge number of people who either are not able or willing to say it for themselves, are pushing in a manner that others are unlikely to do. right? Regardless of what your belief is, here is somebody who's going to say what you ordinarily would not say, somebody who's going to agitate and push, regardless of who that individual is character-wise. They are doing something that you would not be able to do. It definitely does take a toll on the individual. And that's why I asked one of the questions I did, is that, are you the decision that you made, are you giving up on it? Because then also gives credence to the question that, you're not in it for the long haul. But I think there's so many factors that play in something like this. And for him to say, look, I need to take a break to kind of recharge and reset, thinking, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, may give him the opportunity to come back stronger. So long as he's not dropped the ball on his beliefs.
Look, leaders the world over, people who take responsibility either as a duty, a chosen path to look after or represent people or represent their affairs, even they have a timetable when they take a break. And it's for that same reason. There is a limit to how much you can keep dealing with people's problems without taking a break and saying, forget it. I'm not taking this thing. I'm not taking calls. It's important.
So you can imagine then, this is somebody who takes up responsibility just as a personal calling.
Yes.
How about those on whom responsibility is actually bestowed?
Like?
And expectations are made.
Like
a president.
That one.
Every waking moment, if there's a war, if there's an incursion, if there's a huge accident, if there's a catastrophe, it's all on you. In fact, on very many days we don't even know about, he makes a decision on life and death.
He does.
Now, how then would that be? 10 years of that. Not a break.
No, he has a support system. That's the fundamental difference.
For sure.
A huge support system where he can delegate happily. And there are people...
But the ultimate decision is his.
Oh, yes, it is. But he has a support system, a well-structured support system with people, many of whom he has had a say in choosing, and people who understand what needs to be done. That is the saving grace. So even if he says, I'm taking a break, work goes on. If Boniface Mwangi takes a break, and he correctly puts it, let the 50 million Kenyans now see how they can go about their business. And they will. But he himself, the niche he has cut for himself, unfortunately, what he was talking about is that territory. That's what happens.
That's what happens in that area.
That's what happens.
Coming up to the top of the hour, shortly we'll be hearing the news. And as we talk about all these things, what matters to you for Boniface? It's time, a break, time to reflect and engage with his family. What numbers matter to you and what do they mean to you? NCBA Bank is very much concerned about such things that matter to you and looking at how then they can support you in terms of numbers. It's not just numbers in terms of figures, it's numbers and their impact on your life. NCBA Bank, go for it. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. In the next hour, we have a conversation about mobile lenders' new move to regulate them. What does it mean? Good morning. It's now 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Barely a week after there was drama at LSK President Nelson Havi is back again with more drama. Council member Wangilo Eliaula says Havi last night sent away security guards from LSK offices and took over the building. Wangila also says that Havi locked up the offices and members of the society are now unable to access the premises. He attributes Havi's actions to the fact that he wasn't able to run the society according to his will. Corruption is one of the common crimes before and during elections. DPP Nudin Haji also says we'll have an increase in crimes during the electioneering period. He, however, says politicians will be able to commit election crimes only by the help of citizens. He further says they've put in place measures such as prevention, expediting of court cases, among others, to ensure that such crimes are minimized and those behind them prosecuted.
A lot of the big crimes tend to occur, especially corruption, just before an election, because those people or the criminals find it much easier to perpetrate that when they consider that the government is at its weakest point during a transition or during an election. Of course, there will be a surge in a number of crimes because they see that as an opportunity. As a country, we're going to be stretched. Law enforcement will have to ensure that their borders are secure, but they will also have to ensure that there are no hate crimes, there is no violence, votes are not stolen.
9 girls from Kisaju Deepak boarding school, Kajiado County, have gone missing under unclear circumstances. The girls' disappearance was discovered after one of them called their parents and told them she wasn't in school and then switched off the phone she used to call her parents. Parents are now demanding answers from the school on how the girls left the institution without anyone noticing.
Walitoka tu hivyo kwa njia ya tatanishi, walienda mpaka saa hii na ni wasichana. Kwa hivyo tunaomba tuelezewe hawa watoto wako wapi.
Usalama watoto hawana. Watchman usiku hakuna. Usiku katikati saa 3 saa 4 ndio watoto wanafieka.
Hatujaambiwa kwamba kulikuwa na shida yote shuleni. Sasa mimi mwenyewe nilikuwa najiuliza kwani watchman ako wapi ama matron ako wapi ama mwalimu wa duty ako wapi.
The first day of matatu operators operating in full capacity saw some of them resume to their old habits of ferrying excess passengers. In Nairobi, vehicles carrying 14 passengers violated traffic rules, with some carrying more than their accepted capacity. However, we spoke to some of the members of the public and this is what they had to say.
Wakipata hizo barua tutaanza kuchase kwa 65. Tumeimplement kila kitu. Hata insurance ilikuwa ya 40 people lakini sasa hii tumepandisha kwa weka ya 65 passengers. Ile shida tuko nayo sasa hii, wateja pata kuchaonekana sana.
Kwa tukiongeza pesa, tukiongezewa mafuta na matajiri, pesa itosi. Sasa tunashukuru serikali sana kwa sababu wametusaidia tubebe full. Sasa mimi ningeomba watufungulie pia magari ya usiku.
Wamefanya kitu mzuri kufungua inji na kufungua kasi. Sasa hii tumefurahi.
That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, so we're still looking at a little bit of traffic on Mombasa Road. That's headed out towards Imara Daima. Shouldn't be too crazy though. Also a little bit on Gong Road as you're heading out into the city. Some traffic also, actually quite some traffic around Murang'a Road into the city as well. Coming out of Westlands. Kamkunji is still a problem area this morning. Not quite sure what's going on there, but traffic has been there since before 6 a.m. This one you have to watch out for. Coming off of Thika Road as well. Right around the Muthui Square connecting with Kiambu Road. There was an issue and there still continues to be one. Heavy traffic. Apart from that, Thika Superhighway is not giving too much of a bad vibe. Langata Road, yes, well, it was good earlier. It seems to be jam-packed now all the way to the Timor roundabout. We're going to have to watch out for these as we go through the morning. We're still in the middle of traffic hour. We'll see what it looks like in a short while. Not to forget, you get into a sticky spot. Let us know. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is coming up to 6 minutes. Will you give me 4 seconds so that I can just say it's now 6 minutes after 8 o'clock? Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues into the third hour. We thank you very much for joining and for tuning into the Situation Room. This and every weekday morning, wherever you are. You know, we see people from Nigeria, right? We people from South Africa, people from West Africa, people from outside Africa in other parts of the world, all joining this show. And we appreciate them. As we begin the hour, C.T. Muga has the proverb.
Rain does not recognize anyone as a friend.
Rain does not recognize
anyone as a friend. It drenches all equally.
Where is this proverb from?
Nigeria.
Right. No wonder she came in with that whole issue of front yard and backyard and...
I don't understand.
You know, every time a proverb is uttered and you respond with the phrase, I don't understand, it is a good response. You're not supposed to understand it.
I know he's taking a dig at me.
Of course he is. And
Yako. That's what basically he's saying.
Yes, but you know, we all understand rain and we all know what rain does, don't we?
Yeah.
Gets you wet.
So this particular proverb could even be Botswanan. The only place it wouldn't apply to is a place which is predominantly a desert. Then that rain, desert, iffy. Though it does rain once in a while, but iffy.
Okay. So the rain in the desert is friendly.
Well, there are hardly any people in the desert, so the issue of being drenched. See, we're referring to human beings, not to bare earth, surely, Eric.
The Situation Room broadcasts every morning on SpiceFM around the country. We are online, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. And for 1 hour, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. We're also live on KTN Home. Good morning to our audience joining us on TV. This is your radio experience on TV. This hour, we want to discuss the issue of digital lenders. All right? And the chairman of the Digital Lenders Association of Kenya joins us this morning, Kevin Muthui. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante.
Now, you know, we've talked about you guys for a while, and we've been saying we will have them come here once we have exhausted everything that we want to say about you in your absence, so that when you come here, we don't repeat. We'll just be giving you platitudes, give you that seat. We call it the hot seat. It's just where you come and you're served very good breakfast. Don't worry, you'll see it soon. CT, there was a story yesterday in the papers, and this was with regards to regulation of the digital lenders. This conversation has been taking place for a while. Move people, first of all, wondering. So companies have come and set up in the country, and then companies have reached out to people and said, you know, you want some quick cash loan? All right. So here's the modalities. You can get access your money here and there. And then ghafla bin vu, punde si punde, as CT would say, the issue of CRB, the Credit Reference Bureau, started coming up. And people now started associating the digital lenders with being reported on the CRB and, you know, just tarnishing a otherwise very good reputation. The only thing you haven't done is just repay a loan. I mean, come on, nitakulipa, what's your problem? And then now we got into conversation about regulation. We will get into regulation, Kevin. But let's first of all start by understanding your industry. So the digital lenders, who falls in this category of digital lenders, number one. And number two, what's the profile of your borrower or your customer?
Those are both great questions. So first, digital lending is the act of doing three things. I've been quoted before saying that digital lending is the greatest invention ever. And the reason I think it is because we've been able to do something quite remarkable, which is we're able to do KYC, which is know your customer, which basically means we're able to know that it's Eric Latif that is downloading the app, filling in the form, and then, of course, borrowing. The second thing we've been able to do is credit scoring. So we're able to take data from different places, CRB, M-Pesa, phone data, etc., and say that Eric is a good potential customer. If we gave him 5,000 shillings, he would use this money and repay us back. And then finally, of course, disbursements, which came from, which is sort of the evolution of M-Pesa. You know, M-Pesa first was a peer-to-peer money transfer system, then became a business to customer, then went to business, and now we could do business to customer after doing the first two processes. Now, the reason it's a remarkable feat is because before us, the cheapest loan you could issue was 100,000 shillings because the cost of KYC and the cost of credit scoring had all these different manual processes that sort of added cost. Now you could do it on a digital platform and, of course, then loan. The governor of the central bank loves to say digital is a channel. So that's also one of the key things. It's just a channel. We haven't really redefined what lending is. It's still the same, checking for fraud, checking for willingness to repay, and checking for ability to repay. Now, who's the profile of customer? This is another huge misconception. When we lend, we typically look for what we call the informal sector entrepreneur. So the mamambogas, the boda-bodas, the cart pullers, you name it. Unfortunately, in that bag, because we are a young industry, we've sort of netted some young people. Some of us have created this problem called over-indebtedness, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But that's typically the profile of customer we deal with.
So the person that you target is the informal sector entrepreneur.
Yes.
And who's that? Who's an informal sector entrepreneur?
An informal sector entrepreneur is one who does business. So there's a form of trade, but isn't formalized. So they don't have a business permit, they don't have KRA PIN, they don't have a bank account, but they're involved in trade. So a good example would be a mamamboga, right, on the side of the street. She puts all her wares on the street corner, but she doesn't have an ETR receipt. She doesn't have a marketing plaque, none of that. So she's an informal business. Yeah.
So we know there are companies that are in the digital lending that are not banks. And then we also know the banks that have products where you can borrow through digital. Are they also part of digital lenders?
No. So the Digital Lenders Association of Kenya is a membership of 21 digital lenders. We represent what we call the unregulated side. The regulated side are the banks, so they come under the CBK Act and are regulated and have a whole process. We didn't have anything to follow.
Is there a reason why you didn't?
Well, the Money Lenders Act was repealed, I think, in the late or early 90s. And so in Kenya, if you're a non-deposit taking institution, you could lend. And the premise was that why should I enter between a contract between two parties if the money is mine and I'm lending it to you? Why should there be a regulation in between that? The challenge now is that because digital lending has become so
that
common,
word.
That word, so common, we are now impacting 6, 7, 8 million people on a monthly average. So now it has become a serious issue, and we need to now start sort of putting some parameters.
So you fully support the initiative that the central bank is proposing to take?
We have been actually calling for some form of regulation since 2018. And actually that is why the Digital Lenders Association of Kenya was formed. For us, as we grow, what matters now is predictability, right? As our businesses grow, we need to be able to plan 5, 10 years into the future, because now our business models have matured. And without regulation, there's an element of risk that is now in the marketplace that we need to solve as businesses as well.
Okay. You said initially that this was set up for the informal sector, right? Those who don't have the documentation, as it were.
Yes. We call them thin file.
Thin file?
Yes.
Okay. But
You will have to explain the thin file.
for sure.
thing,
I'll come to that.
Yes.
But we see that there has been a proliferation of people taking out these loans who are not specifically in that category. And many would argue that you had more on the other side who were actually documented taking than the informal sector that you had previously mentioned. Why do you see that is the case?
Well, that's an interesting point. In Kenya and most of Africa, it's quasi, right? We are formalized, but we are not really formalized. What does that mean? You find that there are a lot of informal sector entrepreneurs who have a day job and work, at a factory or at KTN or at SpiceFM, and in the evenings or during the weekends, partake in a different entrepreneurial
side hustle.
Yeah, side hustle. We call it. Kenyans even have a famous term for it in Swahili, and as a result, you find that we are both formal and informal in many respects, and particularly in urban centers.
You know, among the things that you said was, and we're going to discuss that, is initially you are targeting, as a business, your strategy is target those entrepreneurs in the informal sector, because they are trading, they need capital, they need operating capital. They will come to you, they'll borrow, they'll repay within a certain period because they are trading. And then you saw a proliferation of other people, let's say students, coming in and borrowing and then not being able to repay. But the first thing that you told us that digital lenders are able to do, which is the best thing that has ever happened, is that you have very robust KYC protocols. Those two do not sit together. If you know your customer, how do you not know that this is a student?
So that's, again, a very good point. And the best way to sort of give you context is think of it like a baby. So digital lending came into being as a result of various factors coming together.
A baby as in a toddler child?
A toddler child,
okay,
yes.
Go on.
So in 2007, we have this thing called M-Pesa.
Yep.
M-Pesa changes the game. And now what happens is that you've put a wallet or digital financial service in the hands of Kenyans. Number two, in 2013, the Credit Reference Bureau is enacted, is passed into law, and the regulations are then put out. So now we have what we call a credit information sharing framework. And then the third thing, obviously, was IPRS, the Government Registration Services. And then shortly thereafter, the government insisted that anyone who registers a SIM card anyone who owns a SIM card must go and register so that we now know whose SIM card belongs to who, the ID number, etc., etc., etc. Now, the first digital lenders outside the banking system came into play in 2014, right? And between 2014 and 2017, we were making a lot of mistakes. I'll give you an example. One of the key things we found out in my business, for example, was we were lending to bettors, people who were betting. So we were doing all the KYC, and our initial scoring parameters were letting bettors come through. But very quickly, we were able to identify that unique data piece that identifies a bettor, and we were able to cut it off. So to answer your question, the way credit scoring works is that it evolves. It's taking data and then using that data to understand your customer better. And the reality is we are still a young industry. We're only about 5 years old. So to the toddler analogy, now we are a 5-year-old child, still, and a little bit more advanced in terms of we can walk, we can talk, we can run, but we still haven't gotten to a point where we are, our systems are 100%.
Still can't put your arm around your head.
Exactly. For example.
But what I often wonder about, useful as this particular enterprise is, how exactly do you deal with financial exposure? Because banks take deposits, banks have to have a certain liquidity ratio. What do you people do?
So we lend private capital. So we look at capital like a raw material. We price, the cost of that raw material into the pricing of the loan. So that's how we manage it. And then we go to the market, to the capital markets, and put out papers, or we use our own money, or we go to the bank who lends to us money to then on-lend.
As we talk about this, you've also mentioned that you impact or you reach out to about 7 to 8 million people every month. That's a huge number. How much are we talking about in that month?
Well, pre-COVID volumes of Digital Lenders Association of Kenya was about 4 billion shillings a month in loans. Since COVID began, we've had a couple of disruptions. The main one being a circular in April from the central bank denying us access to the Credit Reference Bureau. That significantly affected our credit scoring and other parts of our business model. And so the number is now between 1 to 3 billion, but there's no certainty. But pre-COVID, we were doing 4 billion. The bank lenders, however, pre-COVID, M-Shwari was doing up to 250 million, 25 billion shillings in monthly loans. Yeah.
One of the reasons why a lot of folks enjoy the services that mobile lending offers is that it's quick. It's almost instant, and you're rarely denied. But one of the dangers being that I will borrow from Mutiso today in terms of a mobile app. I will borrow from CT to pay Mutiso, and then I will borrow from Eric to pay CT. That will allow me to pay. So we've seen a lot of these reports in the last 6 months of people who can have up to 5, 6, 7 mobile loans operational at the same time and are going deeper into debt. Now, do you feel that the association has a responsibility in regulating this kind of behavior, or are you interested in the bottom line commercially when it comes to lending, getting your profit, and then you move on?
That's a fantastic question, and I'll tell you why. Over-indebtedness adds risk to my portfolio as a business, and so it isn't in my best interest to have an over-indebted customer. The reason over-indebtedness happens in this market is actually systemic. The challenge is we're not able to share data between lenders in real time. It is assumed that the CRB is real time. It actually is not. It actually works on 30-day cycles. And so because of that, if Eric takes a loan from me and then you take a loan and then he goes to take a loan from him, I will not be able to tell him that Eric took a loan from me in the morning until a month later. And that's a systemic issue. So what are we doing about it? We have put out proposals for a system called the Credit Fraud Prevention System, which will work in conjunction with the Credit Reference Bureau, which basically allows digital lenders like us who do short-term loans, because typically our loans are 7-day, 15-day, 30-day, max 90-day, who are not in that monthly cycle like the banks, to sort of share data around the and lending data in a private private secure way, to tell the other lender that don't give money to Eric, there's some risk if you do. Yeah. So it's a systemic issue. It's something that the association wants to solve as quickly as possible.
So are we talking about risk to the business, or are we talking about protecting the citizen who could then go into indebtedness?
It's both ways.
Okay.
It's both ways, because as I said, it doesn't make business sense for me as a business owner to give somebody money that they will not be able to pay. I'm going to lose that customer, right? I'm not uplifting the customer. And the best way to look at lenders is we actually provide fuel, right? Money is fuel into business. Consumer lending is another type of lending which isn't what digital lending is mostly about. And there's something else you said. We actually do not approve as many loans as you think. Yeah, we have over, I think, 24 million adults, and I think only 6 to 8 million, between 6 to 8 million have accessed a digital loan. And I'm imagining about 14 million have tried to apply.
What's a percentage of those that apply and don't get?
That's different from every lender, but like at our place, it's about 80% do not get. So we only approve 20% of applications.
And what's the absolute threshold that you're looking for? Because we still have, and I think it goes to your initial idea for starting this as mobile lenders. You have a huge percentage of the population right now who doesn't have access to credit, which is a big deal.
It's a big issue.
Right? So what is your threshold to say that person X comes today and tries over their mobile because they do not have the wherewithal to go to a bank and borrow 10,000 shillings, right? What are you looking for from an individual who comes and says, I need a little bit something to fuel my business today, to buy produce, to supply tomorrow?
So there are 3 main things in lending we look at: fraud, willingness to repay, and ability to repay. So fraud is the usual thing, right? What people tend to forget about lending is because we have money, everyone is trying to get something, right? So even the bad actors. So we have got very good security systems to sort of push and manage that fraud element. And by the way, fraud was a big issue in 2018. The industry lost up to 30 billion shillings that year.
Wow.
Yeah. So as I keep reminding people, we have not been making the super profits people think. We're still a young business. We're about to get into that phase. The second thing is willingness. Willingness is that thing where we are able to show that Eric has taken a loan and repaid it, right? It doesn't have to be my loan. It can be anyone's loan, but has taken a loan and repaid it. And that's why the Credit Reference Bureau is so important, because the Credit Reference Bureau takes away this thing we call fast loss risk, which is the most expensive risk when you're calculating somebody's risk, because if you don't know if they repay, right, you're really taking a risk by giving them that fast loan, right? So that's why that credit reference bureau is important, and that's why if you read any literature around credit reference bureaus, there's this thing called a trust layer it creates, and it really helps in low trust societies like ours. And then the third thing that we use is ability to repay, and this is cash flow. So we're looking at M-Pesa statements, bank statements, and anything that can give us some sense of your financial cash flow. And then from those three things, we're able to calculate now, okay, what's your limit? First, do we approve or reject? If you're approved, okay, then what's your limit? If there's a limit, and then we keep adding to the data sets as we go along. So if you pay me back, now you've gone up in the willingness to repay score, right? If your cash flow has improved because of my loan, you now move up also on the limit you're likely to get. And that's the utopia. That's what I've described.
That's the best way.
That's the
27
best
minutes after 8. Let's take a break. Let's take a look at the traffic and also look at the weather forecast for the country and other parts of the world. Having a conversation with Kevin Muthui. So he is the chairman of the Digital Lenders Association of Kenya. Who are they? There's a new move to enter them into the ambits of regulation. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing when you regulate the digital lenders? That's a conversation we're having. We're live on KTN Home, on SpiceFM, and online. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Gone are the days when hiring should be about hitting the brick wall, because we understand how much it means to have the ideal candidate working for you and your organization. That's why at Standard Jobs website, we offer the complete employer dashboard that lets you interact fully with applicants, lets you track the full hiring process through a qualified specific smart search tool. What's more, we offer a full-on custom branded page that lets your company stand out with your own to choose custom page. So visit www.standardmedia.co.ke/jobs today and let's help you find the next ideal candidate for you.
At NCBA, we know it's more than a car loan. It's the many road trips you make. Call 0711056444 or visit ncbagroup.com for more information on asset finance. At NCBA Bank, the numbers that matter to you matter to us.
24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Losing a loved one is never easy. The lingering memories, the what-ifs, but in all the gloom, we find ways of celebrating them. And here at the Standard Tributes, we aim to give your loved ones that befitting send-off. Visit www.standardmedia.co.ke/tributes today and post your loved one's tribute. In addition, get access to funeral services from our trusted vendors. The Standard Tributes, keeping memories alive.
24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
At NCBA, we know it's more than a business loan. It's the flexibility and time you get to spend with loved ones. Call 0711056444 or visit ncbagroup.com for more information on business banking. At NCBA Bank, the numbers that matter to you matter to us.
It's 16 degrees in Nairobi. There's still a haze over the city. Highs of 24 and lows of 15 today. 15 degrees and cloudy in Nyeri. Highs of 22, lows of 14. 16 and mostly sunny in Nakuru. Highs of 23. 21 will be the high in Eldoret. It's mostly cloudy at 12 and partly sunny conditions at 19 in Kisumu. Highs of 25. 27 will be the high in Kakamega, where it's sunny at 18. Continues to rain in Mombasa at 24. Highs of 28 and lows of 22. 23 will be the low in a rainy Malindi. It'll go to highs of 28. We'll look at highs of 26 in Kampala. It's mostly sunny at 19 and partly sunny conditions at 23 in Dar es Salaam. Highs of 29 and lows of 21. 7 degrees and cloudy in a chilly Johannesburg, coming down to lows of 6 to go to highs of 17. And it continues to rain in Lagos as well. Highs of 29 and 30 will be the high in a sunny Kinshasa, currently at 20.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
Right, still a little bit of traffic inbound on Mombasa Road today. We're also looking at that Kamkunji roundabout, guys. Don't know what's happening there, but traffic is thumping. As you're trying to get into the city, it's going to take a while to get out of this one. We're also looking at a lot of traffic in the Westlands area. Don't forget, you can use the Red Hill Link Road to get out of Westlands and then back into the city. Probably is a good idea, and stay out of that mess that is Waiyaki Way, at least for now. Remember, you will not be able to use that area coming out of the Museum Hill ramp. You can't use that for now. We're also looking at traffic building up on Langata Road, and it will continue. Also on Gong Road, little pockets here and there before you get to the City Mortuary roundabout. So just a heads up about what it looks like on the roads. Not too terrible, but some parts are looking quite thick. Talk to us if you get stuck or you find a good route. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice FM. Nyeri. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 27 minutes to 9. Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues in the Situation Room this morning. Is Eric Latif, Ndu Oko, C.T. Muga. And our guest this hour is Mr. Moneybags, Kevin Mutiso, Chairman of the Digital Lenders Association of Kenya. We are talking about regulating the mobile lenders, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, C.T.
Something that you mentioned that caught my attention, but it not just caught, it gripped my attention when you mentioned the amounts involved, 30 billion in terms of losses as a result of fraud. Tell us a little bit about the anatomy of what you refer to as fraud. What is it? How does it occur? How does the institution that you belong to end up losing a colossal sum such as that one to this one element, fraud?
Okay, so it wasn't one institution, it was a whole industry. And fraud usually comes in many forms. I'll give you the reason why fraud happens. It's the main risk we have to manage. And the reason is because we assume to have money, you have every type of person trying to get in, no matter how. So as I was telling your colleague that since time immemorial.
My name is Ndu.
Ndu. It's a hard name to pronounce.
It's easy. You just want to...
NDU.
NDU. Okay, Ndu.
Put your back into it. You're okay.
Ndu. As I was telling Ndu earlier is that even the old bankers of the 1100s, 1200s had some of the best safes and the best vaults in those days to manage fraud. So fast forward to the 21st century, fraud comes in different ways. One of the key fraud, as you've said, looks like is identity fraud. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of cases where you've seen old mamas in particular complaining that their names are on the CRB, they never took a loan. But they have a 2,000 to 20,000 outstanding, and they're wondering where it came from. That's identity fraud. Now that happens because of digitization, because we're using ID numbers, we're using Safaricom lines, or rather telco lines, to identify these customers, and so identity is a big issue. So that's the other one, the main one. The second one is around gaming the credit scoring. Right, so you've got geniuses sitting in a room somewhere, and it's usually very coordinated. People always assume it's one guy in a room somewhere. It's actually quite coordinated. They're trying to understand how your algorithms work and how you're setting limits and who gets the highest limit, why they get that high limit, and then on one day they come and they attack and they take. They take.
So they come and apply for a loan.
Yes.
And they game your system such that you score them very highly.
Yes.
They will surely get the money.
Yes. It's called loan stacking.
Right.
So you stack to the top of the limit on several numbers, and then you just default. right? Those two, by the way, we found solutions around that. That was a major problem, as I said, in 2018. Today, not so much of a problem. And then the third one, obviously, is the actual movement of the funds, right? If you've seen any movie today, you've seen robberies taking place, these jackers, they jump onto the car and then they're trying to do whatever.
Yep.
So think about it the same way. The M-Pesa connection, the bank connection, our various solutions have connections. And so there are people who are also trying to sort of ram and break into those connections. Again, because we are a collaborative industry, this is the other good thing about financial services. We work together. We realize the importance of being in unity. We actually have solved some major issues that were there in 2018 around each of those three. And now we manage the fraud risk pretty well now.
But tell me, for what you're saying to happen, there's always been this speculation that the people who work in that industry are complicit.
That it's an inside job.
Precisely.
Well, that's a valid point, but fraud is all encompassing. It could be inside, it could be outside.
It's still fraud.
It's still fraud. So I was describing the types of fraud. Typically, you hope that it isn't an inside job. And you hope and pray and you hope that your HR processes work. But sometimes that's not the case.
When you say, for example, you've been pushing as the Digital Lenders Association for some form of regulation, is it some of the things that you want, for example, saying that there should be minimums for you to operate as a digital lender? This is what you have as SOPs for addressing fraud or for curbing fraud or preventing fraud, such kind of things, like the kind of systems that you need to invest in?
Well, fraud is a business risk, and so usually in a typical capitalistic market, that should be a business issue. So it shouldn't be a regulatory issue. What we hope is that any business that's coming into this game should understand that fraud is the big risk, and if they don't mitigate against it, they won't be in business for too long.
They will suffer.
Yeah.
The other concern around this has been on privacy of data. And you talked about the KYCs and how you do the credit scoring. You have access to my data with the Credit Reference Bureau. You get access to my data from the telcos. You have access to my data from the fact that I applied and my behavior within a system, your system. Now, that is a lot of information about me that you have. When I go to apply for a loan at the bank, they ask me to bring the information that they want. They have my PIN number, they have before the CRBs, they have my PIN number, they have my ID, they have how much I've been saving with them. And then they tell me, bring this and the other, bring your statements from KPLC or any bill that you've been paying, bring such. You have access to it even without asking me.
No, we have to. In fact, that's the Data Privacy Act 2019 is very clear on how we should manage customer data. Right? And so we cannot take that data and use that data without your consent. In fact, the term is express consent. So that's a very important thing.
So how is this played out?
So usually when you download one of our solutions, you shall see a series of things. One is either terms and conditions. You will also be asked to fill in a form. And in addition to that, you usually see a screen that explains some basic data that will be required. And then you say yes to that data being pulled from the various data sources. And we use that digital signature as confirmation that you have expressly consented to us taking your M-Pesa data, taking your KYC data, and taking your what we call metadata of your smartphone to do the credit scoring. Now, you said something very interesting, that in the old days, the bank would ask you for very specific things. Now, my pushback to you would be, go and see who will give you the loan first, right? It is the innovation of taking and pulling that data, scoring it quickly, and then giving you a decision that has changed the game.
True.
If you went to the bank today, you'd wait from anything between 2 to 3 months. And if you've been in business in Africa and Kenya, you know you also need to know the bank manager, right?
It helps.
It helps. Right?
Yeah, some 15 billion.
Touché.
So my point is this. The data protection piece has been solved by policy. It now needs to be enforced, right? And the Office of the Data Commissioner is actually making some tremendous efforts to try and figure out how best to manage people contravening the law.
All right.
Yeah.
You know, the other challenge that's always there is the fine print. So the terms and conditions is this long document in small font that has so many things in legal jargon. And all you're required is check the box and submit. And then you've said you bring another form and another form. Those are 3 things that I'm supposed to just...
And
Boss,
Eric,
I want 5,000 bob.
It's not just small font. The language.
Yes.
Legalese.
It's legalese.
God Almighty.
And all you're required to do is simple. I mean, just check the box, press the button, submit. Now, do you have a responsibility to make sure that people who access your services understand beyond just that seeing of a form and signing, understand what exactly they've signed?
So that's a valid point. In the Digital Lenders Association of Kenya, we have the Code of Conduct. And the Code of Conduct clearly states that legalese should be avoided and we should use simple language, right? In fact, even when we were making submissions to on both bills, the CBK Amendment Bill 2021, we proposed consumer protection guidelines, and in those guidelines we proposed marketing guidelines, right? And in those marketing guidelines, what we were saying, let's make sure we put price, let's make sure we put the key terms of every loan in big, bold font. And let's even use examples such as South Africa that has a law that says that if Ndu takes a loan in a language and signed for a loan in a language that she can prove she does not understand, that contract shall be deemed voided, right? So we even presented global solutions to these kinds of problems, and we submitted that to the parliamentary committee, and then they gave their recommendations thereafter.
Okay, we're looking at securities now, and we're talking about regulation, being regulated, not necessarily in a manner like other financial institutions such as banks. Security plays a big role here. And we've known that in the financial sector, people have played very hard or tried very hard to make sure that security is up to scratch, so that people are not, running away with your money. In terms of security that you've talked about now, how assured can people be? How assured can the market be that this security that has brought about some of this loss is something that can be dealt with?
If you're talking about security from the fraud point of view, that's an evolving process. I always like to use the analogy of a house, right? In your house, you have a gate, and then if somebody breaks in, you then put grills, and then if somebody breaks in, you then put in an alarm system. And then at some point, it becomes very difficult for anyone to get in. And the only way people can get in is if they really, really want to. So most of us, our systems are at that point. They have fail-safes, and so it's very difficult. It's actually next to impossible to get in now. If you're talking about data privacy, that is also something that we protect because data is actually our balance sheet. It's what makes our business unique from each other. It's our secret sauce. It's our intellectual property. So we also protect that, if not as much as any financial portal. Yeah.
So for somebody who wants to, and all of this is taken from, experiences that people have written about, have now been collated in media stories that we've read. So if somebody tries to borrow the first time and is told, no, thank you, try again, you've not been able to succeed, and you're in the business of loaning out this money and you've turned away this individual because of 1, 2, 3, what are then they supposed to do to be able to come back and try again, if not having been put off by the first response?
Usually, if you've been rejected by one of the solutions, it's a myriad of reasons. The most common reason is affordability and proof of willingness to repay. As I said earlier, we live in a low trust society, so willingness to repay is one of those algorithms that we've really worked on to calculate, will you really pay us back? Right? And if we don't pass that threshold of comfort, we typically do not therefore lend. And so what I'd advise anyone is try again and again and again, and then improve any of your willingness and ability to repay metrics. So if you have an outstanding loan at the CRB that's marked as default, right? Because the other confusion is that CRB is a blacklist. It's actually just a list of your credit behavior, good or bad. If you have any loan marked as default, just figure that out. Make sure that it's moved back into current. If you have any outstanding amounts that are significant, because that's the other thing that when measuring willingness, say you have a loan of 200,000 shillings and we can see you have days in arrears, what we call days in arrears, and you want an additional 10,000 shillings, it's a very difficult decision to make as a business to lend to somebody who's already struggling to pay something else and it's already visible. On the flip side, you have ability to repay. So if you've come to one of our solutions and we can see, and I've seen this several times, by the way, your average M-Pesa transactions is 40 shillings a day or 50 shillings a day. I'm not saying that you don't do business on M-Pesa, but you need to up those volumes so that we can see that cash flow movement. Right? Because if there's no cash flow, how are you going to pay us back?
Not liquid.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about data informing you about the sort of clients you have, and that there was a time when a good portion of the people who were borrowing from you were people who were involved in the betting industry.
Who are bettors.
They bet.
Yes.
And how then did you source this information? Is it from their M-Pesa statements? Is it from the frequency with which they borrow? How do you arrive at this information? How do you know that this person is not lending to his relatives?
It's a gabra.
And is
It's usually a set of data sets. Well, I'll give you an interesting insight. One of the key things you could tell is before a big game, you'd see a volume, an upsurge of requests, right? And so you could now start making deductions. And then you start testing those deductions and then you figure out. I'll give you another very interesting case. We realized that between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., our portfolio would perform better than the portfolio of 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., right? Why? So we investigated, and now that's our secret sauce. But what we did to change the metric is we changed the times when you could access loans from us. And what we realized is that the people who really needed those loans adjusted their behavior and came before we. So what we did is we shut down lending, like a physical bank. We just said no lending on the digital platform. Kuja kesho, yes, exactly. And what happened is the good customers, the portfolio, the customers that we had noted would pay back anywhere between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. would come before 6 p.m. to borrow, or start very early the next day at 6 a.m. to borrow. And so we lost all those people who might have been borrowing for other reasons over the night time. And that improved our portfolio. And that's an example of how we use data to improve our scoring. Yeah.
Something else about credit scoring. So CRB Act comes into effect was enacted in 2013. Have been a conversation over a long time. When your credit information is given and, is stored in one hub, then it can be used very well by the financial institutions to know who to lend to, but also by the customers. That side of the customers is what I still haven't seen in terms of if I have a positive credit score, what advantage apart from just qualifying for a loan do I get? Do I get a cheaper interest rate? I've never heard anywhere where they say, just because you have a positive credit score, then instead of giving you this loan at 16%, we actually can now start negotiating at 8%.
Actually, if you go to the Digital Lenders Association website, all of us have what we call risk-based pricing models. right? So, in fact, if you look at the big lenders in this market, in the unregulated space, whenever you look at their products, they're always in ranges. So you'll find 8 to 19%, 6 to 15%, 12 to 30%. The reason those ranges exist is because as your risk profile becomes safer, right, your interest rate comes down. So that is already happening. Now, the central bank governor has actually been pushing for this. He wants us to move towards a risk-based pricing model. And if you think about that, that's actually brilliant, because what that means is that the market will be pricing money for different businesses at the risk level that they're at. So you'll have very, what you call steady portfolio. So you'll have a very good portfolio, and then on the customer side, you'll have customers benefiting from good repayment behavior.
Is it going to open up an opportunity where I know my credit score so I can negotiate?
Of course.
Because this one sounds like you're the one who's determining, you fall in the 7.5%, or you fall in the 15%. Can I come and tell you, no, I don't think I'm in the 7.5%. If you can't
that's
give me
where
this.
we're going to. In a year, 2 years, 3 years, the better your credit score, I bet you the better the places you will live, the better the jobs you will get, the better the mortgage rate you'll be getting.
In how many years?
2-3 years. The CRB system, the Credit Reference Bureau framework in Kenya, is number 1 in Africa, number 4 in the world. Right? It's a national asset. And if we continue using it as it's meant to be used, it's actually going to improve the businesses across the country.
You know, that experience of being able to negotiate interest terms with a financial institution, I have experience in a bank. If you have one of these fancy accounts which they call Premier or Advantage or the other,
Platinum card,
or something of that sort.
You're given biscuits when you go to the bank.
They even give
cookies.
they even give you tea, with milk.
Wow.
Now,
the rest of us queue.
No, there is just forget queuing. Sit
that's not true.
Sit and play with your phone as you wait for your number to be
for
called.
your number.
Literally.
Yes.
I'm surprised you're all going to the bank still. Now we all have digital platforms.
No. I'm not talking on their behalf. I'm talking on my own behalf. I'm the going to the bank type. Okay.
You're now a minority, though, Mr. Muga.
I understand fully. Isn't it a nice thing to be?
So I'm surprised you're still finding. I'm surprised you're still finding
CT wants to be shown his money.
I am a C-touch person. This thing of M-Pesa is all good and well, but I want to see money in my pocket. So I say,
yes.
Now, yes, that negotiation takes place when you have one of those accounts. But you know what they do? The best they'll do for you, 1%. Now, 1% is a huge percent.
Yep.
If you are borrowing in the hundreds of millions.
Yep.
If you're borrowing 20,000. You tell them, why don't you just charge what you're charging before? Because you're giving the impression you're doing me a favor, but this 1% isn't doing me very much good.
Okay.
What you're saying
what
you're saying in theory, I expect you to disagree. That's why I'm saying it. What you're saying in theory ought to work. Okay? But how long have we had a Credit Reference Bureau in this country?
8 years.
Precisely. Now, in 8 years, you're still telling us in 4 more years.
Standard 2.
Yes.
No.
Here you're repeating class.
No. Actually, remember, we still have to populate the Credit Reference Bureau. So in 2013, we had 0 people in the Credit Reference Bureau. Yeah. Fast forward to 2015, we had 300,000 people in the Credit Bureau. 2019, we're now getting to 4 million people. Right. Today, we're at 14 million people. Right, we're 50 million Kenyans.
And your industry has contributed to it significantly.
Of course.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Because the percentage of Kenyans who actually pursue banking services are a minuscule number.
There's an interesting conversation that we're having. To respond to this, let's first say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. 5 minutes to 9. Having a conversation with Kevin Muthui, chairman of the Digital Lenders Association of Kenya. As we take this break, just plug in. So which organization specifically do you represent? I know you are the president of the overall, but which one is yours?
So we have an app called Oye, which is specifically for the Boda ecosystem.
Oye.
Oye, O-Y-E.
Okay.
We're currently running pilots around various petrol stations in Nairobi. And the idea there is we're giving... The way we're acquiring the customer is novel. We're giving, if you fuel at a petrol station as a boda, we give you insurance for free that covers medical, covers last expense in the event of an accident, and covers permanent disability.
Give a man an opportunity just to plug kidogo. He takes an entire minute. This conversation continues on Spice FM around the country. If you're in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, tune in and we continue. Good morning.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
City, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, say, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has anybody that kind of... Has anybody been
I will not listen.
A bit of advice? Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
All right, so
Situation
you're telling
Room.
us that you are targeting the border. Why border?
Well, because I think border solves several problems. I think it solves for unemployment. If you have a smartphone and a bike, your income moves from 7,000 shillings a month to 30,000 shillings. So suddenly you have opportunity, which is a big issue for the youth. If you know, the average age of the country today is 17.6 years old. So we're only going to have more youth. In addition to that, it has revolutionized transport, as Mr. Muga has said. In the village in where I'm from, for example, we used to have this old pickup that you would have to wait if you wanted to move your maize to the posho mill. Today, you just have to call the boda guy. He comes. I don't even know how they do it. They put it on, and then it goes, and in 2 hours, everything's back. So I think I think it's going to revolutionize the urban centers and the unemployment for the youth.
And it's youth who have access to a mobile phone and they know how to use it.
Yes. So if we can help them de-risk, because my big thing in life is how do I help entrepreneurs make more money? So if I'm able to help them de-risk and make more money with these two resources, then we'll have a fantastic Kenya.
Asante sana. Kevin, we thank you very much for joining us this morning and all the conversation. There's a big conversation around digital literacy, which and also financial literacy, basically. People need to know those issues that you're talking about. Why am I being classified as a risky borrower? What do I need to do? When I borrow money, what do I need to do to make sure that I can repay, so that I can improve my credit score as well, so that I can access better money next time? And I think now that you've plugged yourself, we can plug ourselves. This is a platform that you can use to do that, right?
Yes, and actually I was going to say I love the studio. I think this is the best studio I've ever been to. So keep it up.
Asante sana.
Thank you very much.
We don't brag.
I'm not going to question that compliment.
Not that one.
I'm just going to breathe it in.
This is a physical manifestation that you've been looking for.
Yes. I have to see it, touch it, for me to believe.
When you're told by Mr. Moneybags that he has been to many studios around the world that he has never seen one like this, believe it.
It's true.
Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The government has directed all civil servants to take the COVID-19 vaccination by August 23rd. In a letter by Head of Public Service Joseph Kinyua to all principal secretaries and accounting officers, he says all civil servants must go for the COVID-19 jab before the expiry of the set deadline. Kinyua stated that most civil servants have avoided taking the jab so that they stay away from work under the guise of working from home. He cited the teaching, security sectors and the core civil service as the leading institutions in the low uptake of the vaccination. Law Society of Kenya are calling on their president, Nelson Havi, to open up the LSK offices and allow them access the building so they can continue running business as usual. Nairobi Council member Wangila Waliula says Havi's wrangles have in the past weeks affected functions at the society. Wangila says Havi last night hired goons to take over LSK offices and assault security guards. He thereafter closed down the offices and no one has allegedly been able to access the building until now. Havi and CEO Matthew Mbua have had their wrangles for a couple of weeks now.
I closed the offices. Saturday night we brought in some rogue goons who came and broke the gate, and then they chased away the security guards who were there. Then they proceeded to now close it with the mirrors, and then wakajifungia huko ndani. He's closing out the offices because he was unable to remove the CEO from office, unable to remove the other staff. So I think he has gotten desperate. That is the only thing that he could do, to ambush the security guards when everybody else has gone home.
Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi has been replaced as the chairman of the Orange Democratic Movement Party in the county after he aligned himself with a new political party. Kingi's replacement comes days after the Kilifi ODM Youth League chairman Samir Nyundo resigned from the Orange Party. And finally, Speaker of the National Assembly Justin Muthui has alleged a cover-up in the death of two Kianjakoma brothers who died while in police custody. Muthui raised questions on how and why a police vehicle that carried the bodies of Benson Jiru and Emmanuel Mutura was set on fire. Muturi spoke when he visited the bereaved family at their home in Embu County.
This is a vehicle which had a lot of evidence, but the police never fired a shot when it was being set on fire. So they brought it the implication and suggestion seems to be they brought it there to destroy evidence, because once it is burnt, any possible evidence that was there linked to it disappeared. So the transfer may have been, it might be one of those things that happen in the service, but to me is too little too late.
The two Embu brothers will be buried on Friday this week. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
All right, we still see a buildup of traffic on Mombasa Road, especially around Imara Daima and then going towards North Airport Road also. Langata Road, guys, not looking very good, as is the practice. The Southern Bypass, however, looking pretty good. Eastern Bypass as well. Still some traffic coming out of Westlands going towards Kipande, using the other direction to get into the city. But it doesn't look too bad. Traffic has been behaving more or less. Let's just have a look in case it doesn't beyond this. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch past this hour. Text as well on 40127. We've been keeping things moving very well this morning. Let's continue, shall we?
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
It's 5 minutes after 9. Cici, I need to switch this mic back to you, so I assign you this particular one. Here you go. Seti Muga has today's proverb.
I do. Rain does not recognize anyone as a friend. It drenches all equally.
When it rains.
Usually when rain is there, it's raining.
If it's not there,
it's not rain. I mean,
hiya.
Sheesh. We should have just allowed you to fall off your chair in the morning.
Preferably should have fallen on his head.
No. This is legalese, my friend. A lawyer will argue with you and tell you, you talked about rain. Noun. Not rain. Verb. So it has not rained.
Eric, the lawyers you're speaking of clearly are lawyers who existed in the previous century. The ones we currently have and fairly high up, I like the activities. I like in terms of the drama element of it, hiring goons.
They hire goons.
Having drama every
Lock
other
you
day.
out of your office.
Yes.
Tough times.
It's the life. It is the life. So the CS for Health, or was it CS for Health and Transport, who announced that those regulations...
Wait, no. It's Health and Transport.
No,
two different CSs, Health, Transport, announcing together.
The CSs for Health and Transport. Because
Voila.
the CS.
Yes.
For Health and Transport.
Yes.
We have somebody new.
Okay. He has corrected the typo.
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Twice. So those two CSs, were they together when they were making that announcement?
At the podium?
Yeah. Yeah? They were?
Yes.
All right. And initially they were still together last year when they said, let's introduce restriction to the number of people who can access public transport because we want to maintain social distancing in public places. And matatus are very much, and buses, especially the long distance ones, are public places. So for a while, we have seen matatus basically operating not on full capacity, but on reduced capacity on order of the government.
Yes.
By order. Now that order has been lifted and matatus and buses have been allowed to carry back to full capacity. Is there a difference?
No.
What do you mean?
Because a lot of them had not stopped. You still had matatus that were carrying to full capacity, depending on what routes they were at. And even this, remember how we were told? There was a list of things. We were told that every matatu, when it got to the point that it was going to board or drop off, that they would be sanitized thoroughly. Every trip, come back to your port of boarding, sanitize, and then go back. We also were told that there would be sanitizer. You as a passenger getting onto the vehicle, you would have to sanitize and then such. Look, it happened for the first few months and then it ceased to be a thing. There are many matatus, especially on those routes that did not come back into the city center. This thing that you're talking about, half capacity, reduced capacity story. It was not the case. There were very few. Even now that some of them, but the advantage that they had is that they were charging more. On that. The only problem that they're going to face is that they have to reduce their prices, but they were not charging anything different. Rather, they were not packing anything different from what they normally were. The first few days, reduced numbers, and then they charged exorbitant fees. After a while, they thought, I beg, this thing is too much. Full capacity. In fact, there were some matatus where people were still standing, some public service vehicles where people were even standing inside the vehicle to get to and from their destination.
So enforcement had just become lax.
Enforcement happened for a very short period of time.
A month or so?
Yes, and thereafter it did not happen. I saw a clip yesterday of a public service operator saying, yes, we are going to reintroduce this full capacity, but we're going to make sure that we're sanitizing at the stations, and then we're going to make sure that every passenger is sanitizing their hands before they get in, because we care about, the life of the average passenger. Nice, sounds very nice, but I'm sorry, the majority of people, so whether this announcement was made, whether it was not made, it doesn't change anything.
But we also saw statements by the big bus companies, the ones that have a fleet of 10, 20, 50, 100 buses, those that ply Mombasa route and go all the way to the neighboring countries up to Kigali, saying that they did as much as they could to comply, reduce the number of passengers who board your bus coming from Mombasa to Nairobi on a daily basis factoring in that you're not operating at night because there's a curfew, so you only have daytime to do your business with reduced capacity on the same bus, and that has cost them heavily.
Yes, it has.
And they were complaining. Was it a statement from Modern Coast, who said,
they have to shut down?
We have to actually park our buses because this is unsustainable. So is this not going to help them?
It'll help those for sure. It'll help the long haul transport, because now this means, although they still cannot travel at night, it'll help them in terms of how much they're able to carry, because then they can, ramp up more in terms of profits. But I'm saying that the public service, intercity travel, it didn't stop.
And Mashanan.
It didn't stop.
Those Proboxes and Sientas.
These fellas are traveling city to city, right? They know that there's going to be checks on the road. They know that on the highway between Mombasa and Voi, Mtituande and Nairobi, that there will be somebody who's going to be checking. They knew this. Here, you're traveling from Rongai to town. When you're going from Mombasa Road, you're trying to get to railways. Packed. And this is where we saw this culture of, you very well that you're packed, but you're going to keep us a little something for the gentleman or gentle lady who will see you on the way, and you might have to see him or her in order to allow your full capacity public service vehicle make it to railway station. That's what we saw. So this thing of caring for the citizen, no.
But is it just
profit
for
over people?
Is it just for public transportation or the hospitality industry? Are they also being considered for this?
No. Step by step.
Slowly, we start with transport. Let's get you there. Let's get you there first.
You know why I ask this? It is easier to regulate what happens in the hospitality industry than it is to regulate what happens in the transport industry. Because an establishment, the owner is known. It is very easy to determine whether they are abiding by the rules, because you will know this person runs this business. It's not difficult. But transport, you see, there's a balance, a tricky balance here. Officially saying we can go back to factory settings, as in we can simply carry as many people as you like, including on the roof of the vehicles, because we need to jumpstart the economy. The jumpstarting of the economy, I get fully, because the Mwananchi has suffered phenomenally. But what I don't get, did the Ministry of Health tell us that this decision has been informed by the thinking and by the research that they've been given by health experts who have said, right now, CS, PS, it is okay. Just jump pack those vehicles, it is okay. We understand that
things are happening this
things
way.
Are okay. Even if there's a problem, it will be a minimum. Do we have such information?
I guess every time when what's that committee called?
The Committee of Experts.
NAC.
The National Emergency Response Committee, whenever they make a statement, they base that on information that they have received from several quarters. Remember, there's a team that sits in Embakasi that also looks at everything, including enforcement, including security, including intelligence. So they receive information. Intelligence is involved, NIS. In fact, even the military is involved in this. They lend their services to this. The police are involved. Then there's a technical team of health experts who also feed into the National Emergency Response Committee. So when they're making a decision, for example, and saying, Mr. President, please shut down flights tonight, it is expected that those people have played out the scenarios, seen that this is what is happening and this can actually be managed. That is the expectation. However, remember the time, around what period was it? Was it Easter? When the president introduced the lockdown in the 5 counties.
Yes.
And it was taking effect immediately. Schools were about to close. SGR don't travel.
Flights don't operate
from tonight. And we raised the questions of what exactly are those people who are charged with giving information and feeding this information upwards to the president's desk doing? How had they not considered this? So the same question you're asking maybe could be asked. Have those guys actually looked and said, over the 1 year, were they feeding information and saying, we have noticed, we've done a spot check, and public transport is not observing these rules, as we've said, and this is how we can enforce them. or we can just let them be, because on the other hand, as we look at this is a tinder keg. If we touch it, it explodes on us.
You know why I bring this up? This thing goes round in circles and it comes back to that sole point of communication, in whose absence then people are left to their own vagaries to decide and to determine what actually went on and what didn't. A decision such as this one is momentous. It's not something light, because it changes the narrative, the game, and the perception of, one, COVID in the country, the ravages of it or the absence of those ravages thereof. And so it would help tremendously if that decision was also coupled with information as to how it was arrived at from a scientific perspective. It will, whatever, some may argue that it won't allay fears, but it is a reference point so that you know this decision was made. Now, those who are making the decision may know all this. But that has never been the problem. The problem is communicating this information to the general public so that they also know. It's important that they know, because no one, as we know correctly, is free from COVID. No one. No one is immune from COVID. No one is safe from COVID.
Am I hearing you say that by allowing people to get back into full capacity in matatus and buses, we are sending the wrong message?
I am saying it is a similar message to the message that is sent when you have all these big rallies. It's not any different. And it's even worse, because rallies only take place maybe on a weekend. This one, it's on a daily basis.
So what message is this that's being sent that was not being consumed by the people before, when they were themselves boarding a matatu that they can see is full?
They were doing their thing in just, as we say, hustling and surviving and disobeying and disregarding the law or whatever they were told. Right now, they've been told it is okay.
So the thing that you were doing before, doing it with, some kind of, cognizance that it was wrong.
Trepidation,
should not have been done. Now, basically, you're saying, do the same thing that you've been doing before, but now with our permission.
Do not worry. We've given you permission. You just
can
carry on.
Carry on with what you were doing before.
That's what we have said.
It doesn't make anybody safer.
And when you say that, the saying, it doesn't stop there. It's the implication of what you are saying. In the same way when you said, when people have, these political leaders have these huge rallies, the rally is not just a rally. No. What happens at the rally? The conglomeration of people. And what is likely to happen. And we've seen the consequences, whether it's a burial, whether it is a rally. We've seen the consequences. Now we've thrown in transportation into it. That's all I'm saying.
So let me just put it this way, okay? So you're a father. You have, let's say that your son is 25 years old.
It's a good thing, let's say.
Let's say your son is 25 years old, still lives in your house, and then you've come up with these strict regulations and said, let's just say...
I thought you were going to broaden it.
We are just saying...
I thought you were going to say he's married, has children, but anyway, let's just go with this one. He's staying in my house.
Yeah, he's staying in your house, right? He's going to get married in 3 years' time, but he has his girlfriend that he goes to visit, and so he comes home late.
To say the girlfriend is living in his house.
So, City has said, in my house... nobody knocks or opens the door after 9 p.m. Kama hauko kwa nyumba, lala huko nje. City has said this, okay? City notices that for one reason or another, the son does not actually come home at 9. So he's coming once, twice, nilisema, and the guy turns back. And you then see that this guy is actually doing this because he has a job. He has found a second job that he goes into after he leaves wherever he lives. Or he goes to this other job. So he's basically trying to earn himself a living, an extra coin, by working from 6 to 8:30.
Eric, pause for a while.
And from 8:30 to get home.
He comes late.
Yeah, he comes late.
Just pause for a second.
You can realize basically that this person, what they're trying to do, they're not, just outrightly disobeying you. They are trying to live their life the best way they know how, and they're being responsible about it. But unfortunately, the circumstances dictate that they will get home late. Then CT says, you can come in at 10 10 is fine. Or just come in whenever. When you finish work, you come home. Are you sending the wrong message?
You know, the example you've given was doing really well. Until you started painting me as an idiot father. Who doesn't ask questions as to why people come late, just assumes. Huh?
But it's the point, no? It's the point.
That's the point.
That's the point, CT. You don't ask questions, they assume that everybody can finish whatever they're doing and be home by 9 o'clock. Yeah. Everybody is looking for this transport that's leaving now, pack the matatu. And that you don't have a reason for why you're getting into a packed matatu.
And then your intelligence points you now to actually start realizing why he is coming late.
Or why they are packing this matatu
the point
to
that
maximum
I made,
capacity.
The point that I made and I emphasized, I asked the question, I understand why this is happening, but the logic behind it. That's, if you recall, I wasn't saying that this decision is a decision that shouldn't have been made. I simply drew a parallel and said, it's not any different from people attending rallies. In many ways, it's even worse because you're packing people on a daily basis. But those making the decision must understand why they're making the decision. I am not privy to why they're making that decision. Because as far as I'm concerned, what you're suggesting, have we pushed curfew time?
Yes.
To what now?
From 7 to 10. Is it 10 or 11?
10.
10.
Wait, but it has been 10.
It moved from 7.
Yeah, but that was a while back.
Yes, no, it's still 10 o'clock.
It was 7 in Kisumu 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Ndugu, it's like this. Huh? This problem of this second job and coming late and transport is solved by extending curfew to midnight. So that when you finish your job at 9:30, you have time to come home without too much of a fuss. The solution exists. But the point he was making, I understand.
So the father, in this sense, should have told the son, these are the reasons why. Well, what is making me say that I would like you to be home at 9 o'clock is because there's danger lurking out there.
Yep.
1, 2, 3. The decision I have come to is fueled by 1, 2, 3. And that is why I'm asking you to do 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
That's what you're saying.
This guy is... No, that's what you're saying.
No, you're saying that fueled by information.
Yes.
So this communication to this individual, because you're saying CS, Transport and Health, should have told what is fueling this decision. Why are you saying
they did
now?
that. When they were announcing why, the measures, they actually said why. All right?
And what did they say exactly?
We are trying to curb the spread of COVID-19 by reducing the number of people in a matatu, right? We are enforcing social distance, physical distance, at least 1 meter from you to the next passenger. All right? That was very clearly articulated. And then you notice that these sons of yours are caught up in traffic. They are caught up getting home because of the other issue of curfew. They also now are forced to take the only available matatu at 8 p.m. To go home.
Okay.
They are forced to take, because of everything else, they are doing this. And then you observe and you notice, okay, now that they've done this for over 8 months, can I actually pick any data that directly correlates to overcrowding of these matatus and say, because of overcrowding of matatus,
We have seen the spread of COVID. Right.
If I cannot point any data that actually shows this, maybe I should just relax that and then observe and see. Have I seen anything untoward happen to my son every time he comes and tries to knock at 9:30, 9:40? Has he been eaten by the wild dogs that I told him there? No. Does he come home? Is he that he's coming home drunk? Is he irresponsible? No, he's actually coming. In fact, he comes and gets home past 9:30, the door is locked. He doesn't bother knocking. He now sleeps with the chicken. I've seen he's exercising a bit of responsibility with this. He's not out there roaming up and down the dark roads at night. So he just allow, boss, fanya hivi, ukifika, ingia kwa nyumba.
See? The problem revolves around one simple issue, the time of the curfew. The issue of crowding is coming in because of the time.
Yep.
Work ends at a certain point in time and everybody suddenly is in a rush because, one, they're limited matatus and people have to get home. We say 10. Make it midnight. So people have more time. But I think the point I was making, idiot father that I am, has been made.
Share the information, share the reasons as to why you're coming up with this decision, and then maybe, we're saying maybe, that it'll give the people then the desire to comply.
Let there be
Because
no
they
conversation
know.
that they don't know why.
Voila. So
That's
you're
it.
saying that people then don't have a reason to start to speculate and say this, that, the other thing. No, you've laid it bare on the table. You know this is the reason why. Let's just carry on.
Yes, because you see, one of the things that the Ministry of Health has done well is communicate regularly, consistently about the HIV prevalence state and everything. It's excellent. It's commendable. Now, it's in that same spirit that when a decision such as this one is made, because it's a good decision, but what informs this good decision? Eric has given a good account of what he believes, but Eric understands it. Now that he has told me, I understand it. Those who have listened have understood it, but not everybody listens to this show, so they will not understand it. If the government wants to make decisions such as this one, it doesn't do any harm to simply talk to your citizens about the decision-making process you've arrived at.
I'd actually like now to push it to the next level.
Please.
All right? The banning of night buses. And you see, the reason why you want a curfew to be in place is to avoid especially the social gatherings at night.
Yes.
People who board a bus at 9 and they're traveling to Busia, it'll arrive in Busia at what time?
Following morning.
At 5.
In the morning.
Yeah.
They will be in this same spot.
For those hours.
For those hours. So is there any logic basically in saying, do not allow these buses to travel at night? Because clearly you can see, these people are in the same space. They're worrying.
I actually don't see the logic.
I don't see it either.
And it's affecting serious business.
There are business operations who have shut down because of this. And that you're saying that they were able to make, or they were able to realize so much commercially because of the night travel, that a lot of people who had to work during the day then were not able to travel until the night time. So they've lost out on that. I actually do not understand the rationale. I think we've seen this, poke out a lot of times because people have said, so does COVID travel at night?
Yeah.
Does it travel at night more than it does during the day? And this is the thing. I hope that we can actually make decisions that are based on the truth, not even the truth, on fact. That have we seen, it would be nice to even apply this science, have we seen that at night, because of activity 1, 2, 3, COVID spreads faster? Because and you can say that, why are we being so nitty? Because businesses are suffering as a result of this decision that has been made. And maybe you're losing out on something that would then contribute to the economy significantly because of this decision. So is it possible for us to look at things critically and say, okay,
item per item, not a blanket saying
packing
close
of
everything.
matatus, does it contribute to this significantly? All right, maybe we have to have a look at that. Initially, we said no night travel. Have we seen that there is the spread of COVID because of travel at night? If you haven't, then there's no need to make that decision. Have we seen that if you put more than 3 people in a restaurant to eat in, that COVID is spread more significantly than if they went to a political rally? Which one should you be banning? Which one should you be curtailing? Which one should you say should not happen and people should only have takeaway? Does it make a difference? If there's a rider who is taking a takeaway to somebody in their particular home and that person is infected with COVID, how would you know vis-a-vis the people who are COVID negative and sat around the table in a restaurant? These decisions need to be fueled by information, and that's what I'm saying. We could find out that you've made huge losses, and the cries continue to be louder and louder of businesses that have shut down, whereas you didn't need to shut them down. And this is a problem.
And there's a need to review them sector by sector and step by step. There are many people who, by traveling at night, they're actually in business.
Yes.
So board a bus at night, get to Mombasa in the morning, early in the morning, you're in the market, you're in the shop that you needed to go to.
Finish your thing
in the evening, take the next bus, come back. Tomorrow morning, you open your business in Nairobi. Those people are affected because now they have to travel during the day. That's 2 days. 2 days that they have to travel. 1 day going, then the second day, actually 3 days. The second day is when you're shopping. Then the third day you're traveling back.
And the fourth day you go back to your business.
Yeah. It's basically just taking too much. It's 9:30. Let's take this break and see what's happening on the roads and what's happening also in terms of weather forecast for the rest of the day. We'll be picking your calls. Edward in Kisumu can see you calling. We'll be picking your call 0719 012 600. What numbers matter to you, Ndu? When you talk about all these things, bus.
How many really
number
are
of
affected?
people. How many people are affected in the hospitality sector? We spoke with the people who are in this sector, and they tell us the number of people who are employed directly are in their thousands. Indirectly are in their tens of thousands. What is the impact that this is having on these businesses if we just come up with blanket bans without reviewing? These numbers matter to people, and when numbers matter to you, then NCBA Bank comes in, because those numbers that matter to you matter to them, and they matter to them because they matter to you. So go talk to them about the numbers that matter to you. For financial solutions, NCBA Bank, go for it.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
School season is upon us, and parents know what that means. Traffic. And the headache of getting your kids to school on time. Not to worry, Maramoja is here to take the pressure off your shoulders. Join me, Monique, on the Spice Drive from 3 p.m. every weekday to learn more about Maramoja's school transport solution and the benefits it has for parents and school administrators alike.
They are stealing every opportunity that you should have. They are stealing your health facilities. They are stealing all the progress that you planned for your child. They are stealing all the benefits that university students should have. Your livelihood is slowly being taken away from you, which means your life is also being slowly taken away from you as you watch.
Cut through the noise and stay in the know by texting the word TSR to 22840 to receive these and more highlights and insights from the Situation Room directly to your mobile phone. Don't miss out on the latest from Kenya's biggest conversation. SMS TSR to 22840.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say, I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislators are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality.
We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi Lokop is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well. No, Jeshi Lokop.
And everyone knows. Okay.
Spice up your life.
Okay, so we're still looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. Currently at 16, it'll go to highs of 24. Cloudy conditions in Nyeri at 17, highs of 22. We'll see highs of 23 in mostly sunny Nakuru now. Cloudy conditions in Eldoret at 21. That will be the high. 25 will be the high in Kisumu, and it's sunny as well. And sunny conditions in Kakamega at 23. It'll go to highs of 27. 28 will be the high in Mombasa, where it continues to sprinkle in certain parts of the town. Mostly sunny in Malindi at 25 with highs of 28. 26 will be the high in Kampala, where it's mostly sunny at 20. Mostly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam at 25 with highs of 29. We'll see highs of 17 in a cloudy Johannesburg currently at 8. And it's also raining in parts of Lagos, highs of 29 and lows of 24. 20 will be the low in a sunny Kinshasa that will rise to highs of 30. Out in Beijing, we're looking at highs of 32 and lows of 22 today. Light rain at 17 in Paris, highs of 25. 23 will be the high in London. It's partly sunny at 14. And coming into early Tuesday morning in New York, it's partly cloudy. It'll go to highs of 28 and lows of 23.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
Okay, we're checking out of traffic hour in a short while, but we're still seeing heavy traffic. And this is in the CBD more than anywhere else, all the way from the Uhuru Highway roundabout, coming out of the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, heading through to Westlands and also inbound. That's where the majority of the traffic is for now. Also at Kamkunji, that roundabout still continues to give up those vibes right now. We're also looking at some traffic on the Thika Superhighway, but it's not too crazy. So we're going to see things settle down a little bit. Hopefully it remains that way. We'll see it pick up later on in the day as well, and we'll be here to hear from you. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 24 minutes to 10. Many comments on social media, and we want to hear from you. 0719-012-600.
Indeed. Becky says, Insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. How about GOK totally change their tactic? Have all the cops set up COVID sensitization booths all over the place. Distribute the masks that are currently rotting at KEMSA. The GOK should open up the country. It's time, she says. It's
GOK
time.
should open up the country.
Yes. Grid says, poor people... Okay, well, this is in relation to something else, but I think it can apply here, actually. Poor people seem to lack the much-needed capacity to make rational decisions on their own. Democracy is ineffective as currently applied. The masses simply cannot make right choices, whether it's illiteracy, hopelessness, hunger, malnutrition, and utility.
I actually disagree with that completely.
Poor people lack...
This is in response to what Boniface Mwangi was saying earlier. Poor people hate poor people.
That was Boniface expressing an opinion, and I can understand why he was saying it. Because, you see, there is a simple factor of truth, and that truth is disappointment is a factor of expectations.
Mm-hmm.
It is impossible to be disappointed if you don't have expectations. So, when you think, for instance, that what you're doing ought to produce certain results, right? Yes, one can understand the consequences. But to state that because somebody is poor, they will make wrong decisions, that is absolutely not true. People make decisions that, as far as they're concerned, suit their purposes and meet their needs. Now, you may have this lovely broad perspective of what they ought to say, but unfortunately, you are not in their circumstances to understand what those circumstances mitigate and why it is that decision is arrived at.
Does that fact that I'm not in their circumstance negate the fact that they made a wrong decision?
No, it doesn't.
Now,
But what
have
it
they
does,
made a wrong decision?
But what does it? The wrong decision does not
Based
have to
on
do
their circumstance. You know, the circumstance, blah, 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 you've decided, so you did this. Is that a right decision or a wrong decision?
I'm actually saying that your poverty is not the indicator of any wrong or right decision that you make. That's what I'm trying to say. That you will make decisions. My thinking it's a wrong decision. That's me thinking because I'm assuming I wouldn't make that decision. And I'm saying I'm not you.
So, I mean, with all of this and then making those decisions on behalf of others, I think then if we're just looking at, you have the ability to make a decision, right or wrong. You can do that. And hopefully, in most cases, I think so, that people make decisions based on what they see around them. If you see that your child goes out to play, oftentimes comes back with a runny nose and it's chilly outside because they've not gone out warmly, what are you then going to do? You're going to make sure that they go out warmly when they go out to play, that they're dressed warmly. It's a decision based on what you have seen. Now, based on what we have seen, or hopefully based on what we have seen, then I think it's necessary for the government to review some of these things. People are asking, can they go back to worship? I mean, schools have opened, and that story they were saying that they would staggerate some people. Schools have opened, everybody has gone back to school. We don't see this rapid infections of COVID in schools. We don't see it.
But do we see mass testings in schools as well for us to understand and to know whether the infection rates are actually high or low.
No, we don't.
Yes.
We don't see that as well.
But
at
what
the same
we
time,
don't
we don't
see-
see people turning up sick.
No, we don't.
So, and then at the same time, we don't have anything to show us that night travel, for example, was contributing to the spread of COVID. I can understand that you want to keep movement at a minimum, but it doesn't give you that result upon which you are making this decision. And I'm saying we have got to get to the place where we're making decisions based on this data. And not just about COVID, about other things. Even when you pick your leadership, you have somebody who has not been giving you the results that you are looking for. Why can't you take that current situation and use it to apply to a future decision that you will make? And in the same time, why can't we go back on decisions that we've made? It doesn't show that you're wishy-washy. It shows that you're thinking about what you're doing. Look at the number of businesses that have been affected because of decisions that were made in these COVID times. Whether you want to look at the hospitality and the service industry, whether you want to look at transport, look at those two just as an example. And we cannot see significant change or significant infection rates that have come about because these services or these industries were in operation. We cannot. There's nothing wrong with scaling them back. Do we see that after huge gatherings come together, we see that there's a spike in some of these infections? Absolutely, we do. So can we enforce that those be kept to a minimum? Yes, we can. But do we? We don't. So if the decisions that we are making are just kind of like out of the blue because it sounds nice, we're going down a very deep, dark rabbit hole. And I don't think that that is the way to go. We talk about wanting to save the economy. Here are direct ways that we can do it.
Let's go to the phone line. 0719-012-600. Should the government open up the country? Kila mtu ajisort. Lydia in Parklands. Good morning.
Good morning, SpiceFM. Thank you for your good points you raised today. The whole world is talking about COVID, but I feel my boss is my blood cells. They are like little fish. They take food everywhere. They take the waste away. They take oxygen from my lungs to produce electricity to pump my heart, and they are the ones who fight the COVID. So I prefer to drink warm water when I wake up, eat fruits first to enter my bloodstream to give my blood cells the natural vitamins, and that helps me to stay healthy. They are the fighters of COVID virus, and the mask is also very important. There's nothing else we can do now. The only thing is when we are close to each other, cover our face with a mask or keep our distance. And they say if you have to cough into the wall or on the floor so that virus eventually dies. But coughing in the air, it goes into somebody's lungs and spreads the infection. Thank you, Spice.
Thank you, Lydia. Just as in Kilifi. Hi, it's been a while.
Hey, good morning. It has been a while. I'm a very good listener. I am keeping in the background.
You're not a very good you're a very good listener.
Good morning,
you're just not an active listener.
I do. How are you?
Good.
Muga.
Yes, kaka, uko mzima?
You are getting whiter and whiter.
Yes, this is paint actually. Hii ni
This
color
is,
nimeweka.
Nikalkit.
Hii ni color.
Now, I have a couple of things I just want to say.
Yes.
First and foremost, Eric, thank you so much for calling the BS on our headlines. That was a very passionate statement, and I think you're very right. When we're dealing with serious things like COVID, kids are not going to school, and then we're having some funny headlines about personalities we can't even identify in the street. That is very good. Thank you so much for doing that.
Sante.
I have been following the Boniface statement, and I think I sympathize with him. However, I think he should know that change is not a cup of coffee. Neither is it a popularity contest. Those who are committed to change, there are costs to pay. The people may not know it, but the change is needed because the focus is not on the people, it's actually the change we need so that the people can enjoy it. So as we sympathize and support him, but let him not get out of the game. It needs more people like him, and it's necessary for the sake of the country he loves. Lastly,
he's just on halftime. That's what he said.
He's on halftime. Let it be a halftime, and It should not be a long half time. Maybe let it be short like your leave.
Okay.
So the last thing I want to say is I want to celebrate today. I got my second jab. So I'm now, I
Fully
don't think
jabbed.
I'm immune, but I'm fully jabbed.
Yes.
But the thing we really need to focus on is the behavior of most of our people takes time and needs consistent and persistent communication. And the occasional rumors, the occasional shortages of jobs is not helping a lot. So the health system and all of us, those who have been given the job and those who have had the privilege of knowing a little bit about this pandemic and who have the capacity to communicate, we need to communicate more and more, and we need to put more resources. And I wish the government could turn the same vigor with which they put up those quote unquote what are they called?
Containment measures.
Those centers. Those centers where they're building them left and right, and of course with the imaginary bed.
The isolation centers.
The isolation centers. If we could put the same vigor and turn them to vaccination centers with the same mass communication, because as much as we're emphasizing behavior change, I can tell you in my neighborhood, the sale of masks has completely gone down. Nobody's wearing a mask. And therefore the jab is the only option we have for us to survive as a people. Thank you so much. I'm listening and I keep listening. Thank you for keeping the fire going. And more importantly, thank you for calling at BS when we are populating our media with nonsense.
Asante,
Please
Justus.
keep doing that.
Thank you. Lovely day.
Okay.
Zachary in Nakuru. Also, it's been a while.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone there.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Zachary.
Oh, hi, Papa Abraham.
Wow.
This is
Now,
really very good. I like your biblical analogies because now Bolimwandru, according to the book of whichever it is, became Baba Abraham.
Abraham.
Thank you.
Change
So,
names.
it's your wisdom that we favor. Now, let me tell you that the economy can only be stressed up to a certain point, beyond which it can't hold, yeah? Let me tell you that most of the matatu circles, even individual owners of matatus had actually, kept them, yeah? Because they were making zero profits, okay? One thing, the passengers are not there because if I don't have money, I think that I don't need to go to Nakuru town to transact business, yeah? And therefore, that guy who was relying on me to go to Nakuru via his matatu is jobless, yeah?
Yep.
So most of them actually had kept those matatus, converting them into I don't know what. And it is good that, the government said that, okay, let these guys carry to full capacity. Do you know now what that will do? It will push now the responsibility of looking for the job on me, yeah? As an individual. This is a wake-up call to everybody that the jobs are now there. Science is now actually solving this problem. So we must go for it because if you don't, we are not going to wait for you.
Have you gone to get the job, Zachary?
Unfortunately, I'm not one of the essential service providers like you, okay? But in fact, if I know that there is a place where I can go and probably be told to pay, I can do it. I can do it.
Zachary, it's open.
Yeah. It's open for everyone.
Go.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, and you guys have a nice day, and Warim Abraham should have more years.
Enda udungwe shindano tafadhali.
Asante,
Mwalimu
guys.
Abraham has said that you should go and get jabbed.
Okay, I'll do it actually.
Asante sana. 0719-012-600. So should we reopen? As we talk about this, we keep having this conversation back and forth. Let's reopen. Let's have curfew. Let's introduce lockdown. Let's reopen. Which is which?
I think if we look at examples of what's been happening, how have been people making decisions based on what they see? I look at examples of countries whereby Australia, for example, things had shut down, then they opened because they said, okay, it's looking a lot better. Then they had the Delta variant come out. Currently, they're on lockdown, right? But did they just say, okay, you know what? I think I'm bored. What do the Australian people want? They want to go on holiday. We don't want them to go on holiday. Shut down. No. It was based on the decision was
They
based
could
on
see what
something
was
that
happening.
they saw. Yes.
When they introduced those measures in the counties of the Lake region recently,
Mhm.
it was because of seeing what was happening.
Yes.
They said, okay, so let's bring in the curfew earlier so people can get indoors earlier. Let's reduce movement. Let's enforce this and the other. And they saw the effect of that. And that's why they said, all right, now things have tapered down a little bit, so move the curfew back to 10.
Mhm.
It's the same thing. Having this curfew at 10, it's because they have seen and borrowing not just locally, but global best practice. Have a curfew, minimize the time of social interactions,
Mhm.
which tend to get careless, because the risk of having people who are careless at night, then coming to mingle with the people who have been careful at night during the day is high.
On the same side, you say, for example, and I'm not saying blanket, I'm saying that there are certain things that can be revised and looked at. When you're looking at night transport, for example, just like you have said, these people who are traveling at night, very rare are you finding party goers say, okay, let's go to Busia. No, people are traveling because they're either going home or they're going for business so they can finish and come back, right? And they're in one vehicle, they move, they get to their homes. And I'm saying on such things, reviews can be made because it continues to be a sector of the society that continues to suffer, and perhaps it is not necessary.
And the fact of the matter is, just like Justice has told us, Justice is telling us about something that he has seen happen somewhere in Kilifi, okay? Go to any part of this country, especially the rural areas. People and masks. People, masks.
Nothing.
People, social distancing.
People, social distancing. Stories. Becky says, I agree with Justice. It's time the government to change tack. Those centers where they were detaining people, the quarantine centers, right, should be vaccine centers. Instead of roadblocks, put up COVID sensitization booths. Educate people. Humans actually respond better to a softer approach.
That is not entirely true. No.
People don't respond.
No.
But you are the one who keeps saying this. If you make people understand why, they are more likely to comply than if you just come and tell them do without telling
Yes.
them why.
The reason is when you engage people and you allow them to own the process of the conversation by contributing, what you are doing is introducing a situation which has infinitely less friction. But there will always be those people who, no matter what you say, no matter how detailed your explanation is, they will proceed to do exactly what they purposed to do in the first place. Because they have a very clear idea of what matters to them and what they think is important to them. And it has nothing to do with what you're telling them.
No.
It is from that perspective.
So, should we open? Should we reopen? I think we should not have a blanket on anything.
No, I think that there are certain sectors that ought to be reviewed and then open them up. I think there are certain things that it has proved clear that it is not affecting the spread in one way or another.
Like
I mean, look at the transport at night, for example.
night transport, one,
Yes.
two.
Eating
Night
in
transport.
eating in restaurants to a particular number at a particular
But we've
time.
seen that because the owner
That
of
is
the
already
restaurant
open.
ensures.
Yes, to a certain time though.
During the day.
Yes.
Until curfew time.
By the way, if you're just talking restaurant, not bar and restaurant,
Just restaurants.
where people just eat, even if there's bar,
But bar is closed.
the owner of the restaurant is the person who will ensure that those regulations are
kept.
adhered to.
'Cause they
or
want to
not
remain open.
adhered to. Because that business, you run the risk of having a business shut down. And that's not something they would want to do. But there's something else about curfew and the timings. The odd thing about human beings is that human beings get conditioned. With time, people adjust. And all these things that we keep talking about, people will not want to drink in cars because of the curfew. Or rather, cars. No, I meant bars.
Okay.
But
They would want to drink in cars because of
no,
the curfew.
No, they will
Yes.
drink in their cars. Because there is no law about you parking your car outside the bar and drinking inside your car.
There's no law against drinking.
No, there's none. It's just the curfew. All I'm saying is the things that human beings want to participate in and which they consider to be to afford them pleasure. No rule on the planet will prevent them from doing so.
They
if
want to
want
do it, they're going to do it.
Yes.
You see?
However, we cannot move away from the reality that balancing this is tricky.
It's very tough.
You need to get people back to work. You need to keep them safe. You need to ensure that the vaccine is available to everyone. You need to ensure that you're testing adequately. These balls which are being juggled are many, and none of them is less important than the other.
Look at France, for example. So France said, yes, we will allow people to come and gather in social gatherings as they wish. Remember, they had imposed lockdown in some areas. But you need to show proof that you've been vaccinated. Now they have kanjos going around, police, and they come and ask you, so show us your COVID certificate. You have it on your mobile phone, you show, and then you are if you don't have, you're told, my friend, you do not qualify to sit in a restaurant. Now, that kind of enforcement, and plus the circular that we saw from the head of public service, Joseph Kenya, who is telling civil servants, listen, we have noticed that there are some people who are, despite having access to the COVID vaccine, are not going for the COVID vaccine. And the implication here is that people are staying at home because, I'm high risk, I'm exposed. He said, go for COVID jab.
Get vaccinated.
And if you don't go for that COVID jab, it now becomes a disciplinary issue. So trying to enforce in very many other ways, my God, there's no solution to this thing.
No, there isn't. There's one thing, though, that I think, much as I'm saying this anecdotally, if you go around the country, all these COVID rules were adhered to at the very beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
From that time onwards, they are, as a general rule, they are not adhered to. No. Whether it's with gatherings, whether it's with public transport, whether it is with funerals, whether it is with family gatherings. One of the problems that we are now seeing coming out, the story we keep hearing, is people go to visit their parents at home with their children. And not long after that, the grandparent falls sick, dies. If there are two of them, the other one falls sick, dies.
Right.
Other people in that home who are elderly, hospitalized.
Wow.
Now, it's because people decided, things seem to be okay, we can now travel, let me go and visit the folks. But in visiting them, what you've gone and done is you have
them in
taken...
danger.
Yes, precisely.
And it's, as we speak today, there are many people who are hospitalized in dire need of oxygen, who are looking for a hospital bed because COVID is actually spreading.
And it's real.
And it's real. So as we talk about all these things, open, reopen, do not open, the responsibility still comes back to the individual. If you decide that, mask kitu gani, polisi watanishika wapi,
chanjo kitu gani,
nayo, the danger that you're exposing yourself to, and most importantly, the danger that you're exposing those that love you to, is very high.
When you look at the numbers of people who have actually been hospitalized and yet they've been vaccinated, people said, what they forget, in the absence of that vaccination, those numbers would have represented people who are either critically ill or dead.
Yeah.
So,
it's a big one. So, City, tell us when it rains. When it rains.
Pause.
Rain doesn't recognize anyone as a friend. It drenches all equally.
COVID
doesn't pick and choose who it infects.
It infects everybody.
And affects.
Liberally.
Equal opportunity. Thank you very much for joining us today. And we always love when you join us in these conversations. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. We'll be here until 10 a.m., God willing. Have a lovely day. Now until 11, some good music. This song by Karen White, The Way I Feel About You.
I know the song.
You know the song?
Yes.
It's The Way I Feel About You.
Okay.
And then, CT, Back to Life by Soul to Soul. It's a dedication to you.
I understand. I understand.
These and more songs coming up shortly. Good morning. Have a lovely day. It's now 10 a.m.
Spice up your life